Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also...
I apologize.
Have them send someone with more experience.
Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault. And you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
The wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their courtroom.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the case. Dahil Anglican police verbal Latino.
Literally not.
Oh, for crumb's sake.
Is that correct?
I didn't ask you to interrupt me.
All right. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. A little bit late this morning. I apologize. I've got a story to tell you, though, so that should count for something. All right, let's see. Not that. We're going to be jumping to court in just a minute. They started just a second ago. We'll be catching up. Don't worry. We'll have plenty of time to catch up. All right. Good morning. Make sure I got everything set up. I don't know who won the internet today. Oh, it was Regina Adams. Regina, congratulations! You're back in the winner's circle, or the loser's circle, depending on how you view it. I'm feeling a little gray right here. Is that just colors a little off? Get that adjusted. Teensy bits. Yeah, that'll do. Mod can pin things, you know. Yes.
I saw a chicken fight.
Thank you. We have to do a couple things. Regina, congratulations. You're the internet owner. You're the winner. Congratulations. And then there's of course this.
Mike. What day is it, Mike? Guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Hump day! Welcome to Wednesday. Oh, that was terrible. I apologize. But that's all we have time for. I don't want to know about it. Who beat you in volleyball this morning? Okay. Well, yeah, there's that. Okay. Okay, let me tell you how my day started. Dark 30, Mrs. R.A. woke everybody up and said, hurry, get in the car, we got to get in the car. And you know how when you wake up and it's a dream and you're thinking that the house is on fire and you're running around getting ready and you've got like 2 different color shoes on and, you know, your shirt's inside out. That's basically how the morning went. Ran out, got in the car, we're like, what's wrong? You know, I don't see smoke. We're going to go play volleyball, she says. We're going to go play volleyball this morning. And she had planned ahead. She ordered on Amazon a volleyball. Now, this may be the first volleyball Mrs. R.A. has ever ordered, and if I have my say, it may be the last as well. Because it is, I don't know, I can tell you, she saved money. She saved a ton of money. And this is like injection molded volleyball with industrial grade plastic. It's like a cast iron volleyball. And so all of us have like super sore forearms because we went to the park and we played volleyball. And the people who normally walk around the park in the early hours of the morning are like, what are they doing? But it was so much fun. We had a blast. And I like to think I won because at the very end, right before we were going to lose, because we were losing, like the second game that we were losing, we said next point wins, and we won that point. So I think we won. But anyway, let's hurry and sing happy birthday to those people who have wonderful birthdays today. And And then, yes, I will cover. Yes, I butt dialed, I elbow dialed, actually. My arm hit my phone. This is the problem when you fall asleep watching a YouTube video. My arm hit the phone, switched to mod chat, and called everyone at 1:30 in the morning. I have to own that because I give the mods a hard time when they do that to me, and I did that to everybody. And I think I let it ring for like 2 minutes. And I'm pretty sure nobody answered, which is good because I was snoring logs. I was sawing logs like crazy. And eventually, my earbuds, which were still in my ears, I'm like, what is that ringing sound? and then I hung up and pretended it wasn't me. All right. Let's sing happy birthday. Then we need to go to court, and we'll catch up on what we've missed. It's been a morning and a half. Big shout out to Mrs. R.A., though. It was so much fun playing volleyball this morning. This is just one of the things she wants to do in the summer as we're together as a family, to play some sports together. Hopefully volleyball doesn't come up on the list again, or if it does, we get a different volleyball before then. But wherever you are, if you're able and it's legal, stand up, take a deep breath, shoulders back, project your voice to the back of the room, blend your voice with your neighbors, and warm up with me if you will. La 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 la. We're going to sing to Jess, Meg, Oakley, and Oakley's mom, Lindsay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jess, Meg, Oakley, and Oakley's mom, Lindsay. Happy birthday to you. Jess, Meg, Oakley, and Oakley's mom, Lindsay. Happy birthday. I realize there are many wonderful days, but today's your special day. There are a million places you could have been and a million people you could have been with, but you chose to be right here with us. And the privilege, the pleasure, to honor the joy, that is ours. Hopefully we return that joy back to you, make your day just a little more special. Begin by helping yourself to free pancakes at Denny's, IHOP Village, and Waffle House, McDonald's, Tammy Dunlap's House, Andy's Grill, Bob Evans, and Cracker Barrel. Woo! Please wait at least 24 seconds until it's your birthday. P.S. You're not looking good. Who added that you're not looking good? Who added that? That's terrible. You guys look great. Just kidding. Judge Fleischer says, you look good. And P.S. You're not looking good if you have too many birthdays on the same day. Steve and Lisa, thank you very much for the Mix It Up cat, the DJ cat. Turn it up. Adam wrote that cool down message. All right, we're going to do a drum solo for the big finish. So if you guys want to join with me on this next verse, reach down into the couch cushions and pull out the air drum sticks to play on your air drum set, which are there in front of your couch. So let's give this a go. Here we go. Wait, another verse. It's like arms day on a workout. Beautiful. Faked you out. We did 2 verses. We doubled our drumming endurance. All right. With that said, we now get to go to court. And
happy birthday. You look good.
Thank you. We're going to go up to court and start where we left off. Whoops. I say as I promptly mess everything up. Just one second here. This morning, he was late. We were late. We're going to start right when he comes in. So we got the first part. Here we go. That's 6, right?
State appears by Chelsea Thompson and Dan Tombasco. Also at council table is Detective Ben Stern. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Lychwick. All right, Mr. Lychwick is present in court today in custody. Mr. Lychwick, like yesterday, is dressed in jail orange and he is in a wheelchair. Deputies, Mr. Lychwick is secured at the ankle, but his hands are free? Yes. Okay, they indicate that's correct. I understand that Mr. Lychwick has requested that same green jacket be brought up, and my bailiffs have contacted the jail staff to get that brought up. So we won't bring the jury in until that's transported up here and Mr. Lychwick has that on. Attorney Thompson, is the state still in victim rights compliance for today?
Yes, we are.
Anything the state wants addressed before we bring the jury in today?
No, thank you.
Mr. Lychwick, because you are dressed again in jail orange, do you want me to give that same instruction to the jury about how they should disregard the fact that you are in jail clothing? Mr. Lychwick continues to ignore the court. I'll make a record that after we were concluded for the day yesterday, Mr. Lychwick had an opportunity to consult with his standby counsel, Attorney Galaviz, in the courtroom while other people were present.
Other people were pleasant. He was not.
Engaged with Attorney Galaviz in a very animated manner. He was conversational with Attorney Galaviz, and he was conversational with the bailiffs as well. I note this morning, too, before we called the case on the record, Mr. Lychwick was in an animated discussion with his standby counsel. He was proactive in requesting the jacket be brought up from the jail to the deputies. So, again, the court sees no apparent sign of distress in Mr. Lychwick. He's attentive now. He is looking straight down at the table, and he is simply ignoring the court, which is fine, but I just wanted to continue to make that record. Anything else, Mr. Lychwick, that you want on the record before we bring the jury in?
Oh, yeah.
Again, Mr. Lychwick.
I protest these proceedings. This is a travesty of justice. I am innocent of these charges. I have no way to defend myself. I demand that these proceedings be stopped so I can arrange for my defense and arrange for a different judge presiding my case if it's going to come to trial. This should never have come to trial.
It's coming to trial.
The evidence against me is tainted. This case should have been thrown out 8 months ago.
Show us the taint. Wait.
Those objections are noted. There are continuing objections that Mr. Lychwick has raised, with the exception of the request for...
No, I'm ruling. I am sick. I am not capable of sitting here all day again. I am not well. I have a tear in my stomach.
The court notes the objections and the protest raised by Mr. Lychwick. The only new one is the request for a new judge, which isn't going to happen at this stage of the proceeding. It is untimely. So with that, we will bring the jury in once the jacket arrives for Mr. Lychwick.
Okay,
we'll stand in recess until then.
Mr. Lychwick's master's jacket arrives, his green jacket. We're gonna skip ahead a little bit. I probably should have said it differently. I should show us how it's tainted. Is that the phrasing is a crucial thing. Pretty sure that's going to be like, it's not, I can tell you what it's not going to be. It's not going to be a soundbite. It's not going to be a soundbite. It might be viral briefly, but it's not going to be a soundbite. Guess what's here? The green jackets arrived. I don't know. How would that even work? How does my... No, never mind. I can't even talk about it now. Any way I say it, it's bad. It's a nice green jacket. A lot of people have to play golf really well to get a green jacket like that. I can't see if he has the earplugs yet. Let me...
Thank you. You may be seated.
He can hear the judge, so if he does, they're not working well. Wasn't that Letitia Stout that did the earplugs?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience as we take care of a few other things this morning. We are now ready to continue with the evidence part of the case. So, Attorney Thompson, the state may call us next witness.
Thank you. The state calls Dr. Amy Scheel.
Doctor, you can come all the way up to the witness stand. When you get up here, please remain standing and raise your right hand to be sworn in by the clerk.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. When you get yourself situated, that microphone or the black bar with the red dot is our microphone there. So get yourself comfortable. You can use the water there. And when you are ready,
drinking
start
it.
by stating your name, spelling your first and last for the record.
Amy Scheel, AMYSHEIL.
Dr. Scheel, how are you presently employed?
I'm an associate medical examiner for Waukesha County.
And how long have you been so employed?
11 years.
Madam Clerk, can you please turn on the screen in front of the witness? Dr. Scheel, on the screen in front of you shortly is a 7-page document that will be marked as State's Exhibit 117. Do you see that exhibit sticker on the bottom right-hand corner now?
Yes.
Okay. And in scrolling through exhibit number 117, do you know what this is?
This is a copy of my curriculum vitae, or CV.
She testified in the Darrell Brooks trial
what is
as well.
the purpose of maintaining this CV over the years that you've been associate medical examiner?
It's a record of my education, training, past appointments, current employment, any papers or book chapters I've written, any presentations I've given.
I would move exhibit 117 into evidence, please.
Mr. Lychwick, any objection to the admission of Exhibit 117? The defendant does not reply. Exhibit 117 will be received.
Now, you indicated you've been an associate medical examiner for 11 years. What have been your appointments prior to being an associate medical examiner?
Prior to working for Waukesha County, I was employed as a pediatric pathologist for Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. Prior to that, I had worked for Children's Wisconsin for a couple of years. And prior to that, I worked for the Medical University of South Carolina for a year as a forensic pathologist after completing my training there.
Are you licensed in any, do you have a medical license in any other states besides Wisconsin?
South Carolina, Ohio, and Florida.
Do you have any professional certifications as it relates to your work in pathology?
Yes, I'm board certified in anatomic and clinical pathology, forensic pathology, and pediatric pathology.
Do you have to go through any kind of continuing education to maintain those certifications, or do you have to be recertified every year? How does that work?
Every 10 years, I have to take a recertification examination, but every 2 years, I have to do at least 100 hours of continuing medical education in my course of study, which would be pathology, specifically forensic and pediatric pathology.
Can you describe for the jury your education?
Yes, I attended Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska for undergraduate, and then I stayed there for medical school. I completed medical school in 2003, then did residency in anatomic and clinical pathology at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. Then I did my forensic pathology fellowship. Part of it was in Tampa, Florida, and the rest of it was at the Medical University of South Carolina. I worked for the Medical University of South Carolina for a year as a forensic pathologist, and then did a 1-year pediatric pathology fellowship prior to working for about 5 years in pediatric pathology.
Now, as over your career in this field,
Just double check your connection.
think
Screen went out.
it did, yes. So it did for Mr. Lychwick as well.
Have you tried wiggling the cord a little bit?
You could try the old-fashioned method of unplugging it and plugging it back in.
That's worthy of a sound.
Oh, it's on our end, sorry.
Oops.
I can continue on, though, while we're figuring that out.
Okay, we'll try to fix it on our end.
Thank you. Dr. Scheel, over your career, have you been invited to speak at any lectures or any workshops based on your training and your experience?
Yes.
Can you give an overview of those opportunities for the jury?
I've done a couple of workshops for not only prosecutors but defense lawyers. I've given workshops in pediatric pathology for some of our professional societies like the National Association of Medical Examiners or the American Academy of Forensic Sciences or the Society of Pediatric Pathology. So just to name a few.
Okay.
Just for the record, we have the screen back up.
Yes, thank you. And I see it on Mr. Lychwick's screen too.
Thank you.
Now, we're hearing a lot of the study of pathology. So what is the study of pathology?
Pathology is the study of disease or a disturbance in normal function. That's the general definition of pathology, which means from the Greek, I believe, pathos or suffering. So it's the study of disease. Forensic pathology is the study of how disease and injury cause death. And pediatric pathology is the study of diseases and conditions in infants and children.
Now, as we continue going through exhibit number 117, sorry, scrolling down to the end here. Have you had any publications or been part of the peer review process of publications in the area of pathology and forensic pathology?
Yes.
Can you give an overview to the jury about some of those publications?
In forensic pathology, a lot of our publications are based on case reports, which means maybe one case of something unusual that happens that obviously causes death in an individual. For example, one report I wrote was about a teratoma, which is a type of tumor in a newborn. There have been some pediatric pathology papers about different types of tumors or cancers. And one forensic pathology publication about taser-related fatalities.
Moving on from your training and your experience and your education, as an associate medical examiner for Waukesha County, does that mean you are reporting to the district attorney's office?
No.
Do you report to law enforcement in terms of, are they in charge of your office?
No.
Do you get paid by either law enforcement or the district attorney's office for the work you do in pathology?
No.
Okay. As an associate medical examiner, what are the main duties that you have?
My primary purpose and the role of my job is to determine cause and manner of death. Sometimes in order to do that, we might need to do full autopsies. Sometimes our examination might just be an examination of the external surfaces of the body in cases where an injury is already well documented and an autopsy is not likely to yield any additional information. We might go to the scene and do a scene evaluation or a scene investigation. We look at medical records. We look at police reports. Any information that might help us determine how and why somebody died is our purview.
During this examination, do you ever perform lab tests such as toxicology?
Yes.
What about medical records of the deceased individual?
Yes.
Do you perform any kind of microscopic exams?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of testifying in court as it relates to autopsies you have performed or external examinations, approximately how many times have you done that over the last 10 years as an associate medical examiner?
At least 50.
Is there also another doctor in the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
Does the medical examiner's office review every single death that happens in Waukesha County?
No. We review deaths that are reported to our office. So a report might come by way of police who are at a residence where somebody's died. It might come from police who are at the scene of a traffic accident. or traffic incident. It might be from a hospice where there's been an injury to the patient prior to death that might be related to her death. It might come from a hospital or a nursing facility of some type, even in assisted living. Any situation that the reporter feels warrants additional investigation gets reported to our office, but we do operate under certain guidelines based on state statute 979, which describes which types of cases are reported to the medical examiner's office.
Are there also investigators within the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
What is their role?
They are the front lines of our office. They will take the demographic information regarding a death report, so the patient's name, age, date of birth, the history of events, what led up to the death. The investigator, if it's police calling to report the death, will respond to the scene, whether it be a residence, a scene death like a traffic accident or something else suspicious, or a drowning, something where there happens to be an injury or something non-natural that played a role in the death and is obvious. The investigator might also respond to scenes where it's not clear what happened. The investigator always has one of our pathologists on call. There are 3 of us. So there's always a pathologist on call for backup to that investigator, but the investigator generally will initially respond to the scene, do an evaluation, call the pathologist if necessary, and sometimes the pathologist will also respond to the scene.
You mentioned that one of your main duties as an associate medical examiner is to determine cause and manner of death. What are the differences between the two?
The cause of death refers to why the death occurred. It's the pathophysiological, big word for saying what derangement in the body caused the death. The manner of death refers to the circumstances surrounding death, how the death occurred. And while there might be a myriad or infinite ways or causes of death, there are only 5 manners of death: accident, natural, homicide, suicide, or undetermined.
When we talk about those causes of death, is it possible that, let's say, you determine a gunshot wound is the cause of death? Now, could the manner, depending on the circumstances in your investigation, be either a homicide or a suicide?
Yes.
Okay. Have you previously been called to scenes where you ultimately concluded, after your investigation, that the manner of death was homicide?
Yes.
Can you give the jury an estimate how many times you've done that?
We don't have a high homicide rate in Waukesha County, which is fortunate, but I've probably attended homicide scenes 20 times in my career here.
I would like to direct your attention to October 30th of 2024. Did you report to a scene at 1512 East North Street in the city and county of Waukesha?
Yes.
And why did you report to that scene?
My investigator called me and let me know that some bones were discovered partially wrapped in what looks like plastic and maybe a tarp in a wooded area behind the residential apartment complex at this address.
And so this would be one of those circumstances where you would go to the scene. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Do you recall about what time you arrived on scene?
Probably about 7:30 p.m.
When you arrive on scene at 1512 East North, what is the first thing that you do?
The first thing, depending on how the scene is situated, meaning what the perimeter is, who's taking information, is perhaps a sign-in at whoever is holding a scene log, who's documenting who's coming into the scene. Then I talk to my investigator, get some more information, if any is known about the circumstances or situation. Then we might respond or talk to any police personnel on scene who have more information. Then I make my own observations about the scene. What kind of environment are we in? Like I said, it was a residential apartment complex. There was a relatively wooded area adjacent to the complex. It was up a hill. We traversed the hill, we went up top, and made some more observations at that point.
If you could look on your screen in front of you, what has been previously marked and admitted as State's Exhibit number 4, is this the scene at 1512 East North that you were just describing for us?
Yes.
Okay, now, the bottom of Exhibit 4 here, does that lead to the driveway then of this apartment building?
Yes, if you're continuing down towards me out of the picture, it would go towards the parking lot.
Okay. Now, as you, actually, Madam Clerk, can you please show Exhibit 4 for the jury? Okay, Dr. Scheel, was it, since it was about 7:30, was it a little bit darker when you arrived on scene?
Yes.
And does your office, or was it the police department that had any kind of lights so that you could illuminate the area and make sure you weren't missing anything?
Yes, the police did establish large, powerful lights surrounding this area, which has deadfall or branches on top of it, and the blue, just the blue coloration. So we've set up lights around that so we can see better.
Now, once you arrived on scene and you made those initial observations of your surrounding environment and what you were actually looking at, did you or other officers who were present start removing the branches from the top of this pile?
After my investigator took photographs and we made sure police had photographs, then yes, police began moving some of the branches away.
Do you just shove all of the branches off so you can get to the bones, or is there a more methodical way in which you go layer by layer?
It's methodical. It's layer by layer. Most of the wood that was directly on top of the tarp was relatively entangled, so it could be moved in like one piece. But once we got down to smaller twigs and branches and vegetation, we actually used paint brushes to start sweeping the surface of the tarp after we had collected some of that vegetation for specimen analysis.
Once you removed all of the branches and the vegetation to the point where you could actually see the tarp, what observations did you make of it at that point?
At that point, I could see that there was a portion of the blue tarp that was not entirely encasing the bones. There were bones protruding from an opening in the tarp. It looked like some ribs and some vertebrae. We walked around the bones that were encased in the plastic in the tarp and canvassed the area looking for additional bones.
Did you start unwrapping the tarp while you were on scene?
No.
Why not?
It's very important, especially when we had a situation like this where the tarp was secured or had been secured with ropes in which there were knots. It's very important to leave those knots intact. We could also see some portions of adhesive tape on the tarp. So we never disturb any outer coverings when we have a concealed body. We try to take all of the wrappings inside to as best as possible back to our morgue for a more detailed examination, and so we don't lose any evidence.
Once you've cleared everything, in terms of the branches and the vegetation, and you make the determination, this is so we're not opening it here, Do you then put it into the black medical examiner's bag that we sometimes refer to as a body bag?
Yes, generally when we're dealing with a suspicious death, such as this one, we use a white linen sheet or an evidence sheet. We put that down at the bottom of the body bag. For this case, we used 2 body bags because of the state and the condition of the body. He was very badly decomposed, which was why we were seeing bones. So we needed to use 2 body bags, one inside the other.
Once you accomplish that, is there any kind of identifying markers that you put on the bags so that you know which scene these remains belong to?
Yes. Every patient who comes to our office, every death that's reported actually is a patient. Everybody gets an identifying unique case number, which usually starts with a year and goes in sequence, so whatever next number is up. And then for this particular patient, we called him October Doe because he was not able to be identified at the scene.
It's a month.
We also locked the body bag with a tag lock to preserve chain of custody.
Once the patient is removed then and you complete this process, when he gets back to the medical examiner's office, do you place him in a cooler?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what you do for every patient who comes to your office?
Yes.
Okay. What is the purpose then of keeping the patient in the cooler? Why not just perform the autopsy right away?
Well, it depends on the timing. Maybe it's the middle of the night. We're generally not staffed or equipped to do autopsies in the middle of the night. We might have had patients come in already who needed to have autopsies, and so he needed to wait his turn. We also needed to employ additional services that we don't have on site, like X-ray. So X-ray basically operates during the day. So we put him in the cooler to slow down or halt decomposition to prevent it from getting worse. And then we began his process the next day.
Okay. Now, you noted that October Doe was very badly decomposed. From what you could see on scene, was there any soft tissue around those bones that had been protruding from under the tarp?
There was soft tissue and liquid that had exuded or leaked from the tarp.
And so once you removed him and he went to the medical examiner's office, you talked about how you observed soft tissue and liquid underneath where the tarp would have been. Do you collect what you see?
Yes.
Why?
Because there might be evidence in that soft tissue or liquid that seeped into the dirt that could be very helpful.
When we talk about a human body decomposing, when does that decomposition process start?
It starts almost immediately, actually immediately. You just don't see it right away or smell it right away. The first stage of decomp is just that cell death that's immediate. It starts when certain organs like the pancreas, the organ that controls blood sugar, has a lot of enzymes in it. And that cell death or that cell process of decomposition is called autolysis. So certain organs that have enzymes like the pancreas or the gastrointestinal tract like the stomach that has acid in it will break down more quickly than other organs. But that autolysis quickly, within about 3 days, depending on the situation of the body, what kind of environment the body's in, turns to putrefaction, which is bacterial decomposition. And that starts with an active decay phase, then moves on to advanced decay, where all the soft tissues start liquefying or turning to liquid. And then after advanced decay is when skeletonization happens.
Doctor, could you spell some of those terms that you just used, please?
Sure. Autolysis is AUTOLYSIS. Putrefaction, PUTREFACTION.
Write these down. There's a test afterwards.
Skeletonization, skeleton, IZATION.
Thank you.
Skeleton, IZ.
Before I start asking you about some environmental factors, are you aware of the science behind the use of human remains detector dogs?
Yes.
And are you aware whether there is a particular odor that is released from decomposing human remains that these dogs can detect or smell when humans cannot?
Yes, dogs' sense of smell is many, many, many times greater than a human sense of smell, so they're able to detect odors that we are not able to detect, essentially.
And are those, or have there been in the field, identified organic compounds from decomposing human remains, and those compounds are what the dogs are smelling?
Yes.
We have talked then about the process of body decomposition. Are you familiar with the phrases livor mortis and rigor mortis?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury what those two terms are?
Livor mortis, and it's LIVOR, is the pooling of blood to dependent areas that happens after death. So if a body is on his back at the time of death, blood will settle to the backs of the legs, the backs of the head, and turn a red or pink color, sometimes red purple, depending on how much blood is in the body. That's livor mortis, that's blood pooling. Rigor mortis is stiffening of the muscles. So rigor mortis starts happening immediately upon death, but doesn't become apparent for usually a couple of hours, and it's gradual.
It's still writing.
It'll start out like just with a little bit of tension in the jaw and extremities, and the muscles will gradually stiffen up until it's almost very difficult to straighten out an arm or leg. But rigor mortis and livor mortis reach a certain point, and there's no scientific algorithm to tell us for which every single decedent exactly when that would be, because it's different for everybody, because it's very dependent on lots of variables. But rigor mortis usually is set and starts to pass at 24 hours. So once rigor mortis has been oncoming, becomes set, and then passes, it doesn't come back. Livor mortis, same thing. For at least 12 hours after death, that red-pink color to red-purple color of blood pooling will blanch if pressed. After about 12 hours, it no longer blanches when pressed. So that helps narrow down a time of death if we're talking about a relatively fresh body.
We talked about environmental factors, or you at least referenced it, and how those can affect the decomposition process. What if human remains are located inside someone's home, let's say? How would that be different in terms of human remains that are outside that are outside?
Well, it would depend. The inside conditions would depend. If the body is kept in a basement, say with an earth floor or even a concrete floor, slowed because it will be relatively cool and dark. If the body is kept in an attic, it's going to be more hot and arid, so decomposition will proceed more quickly. There will also be more likely tendency to mummify or dry out than putrefy, which is the bacterial decomposition, also sometimes called wet decomposition that we talked about earlier. But in a house, if there are no open windows, we also won't see insect activity like we do when bodies are outdoors. Outdoor deaths tend to decompose relatively quickly because the body is exposed to elements as well as insects and animal predators. So decomposition can happen more quickly if we're talking about temperate or warm months. If we're talking about winter months, well, decomposition is going to slow down because it's cold.
When we're talking about this scene here at 1512 East North, do you recall approximately how long you were there?
I probably was there about 2 hours.
And when you canvassed, actually, sorry, strike that. Once the patient had been removed and placed into the van to be taken back to the office, did you or your investigators or the officers on scene kind of canvass surrounding the area to see if there were any other bones that may have been missed?
My investigator and I looked, and the police did a more extensive canvass, I believe, that night and continuing into the next day, if not longer.
Okay. Now, while you were on scene here, were you able to make an identification on who October Doe was?
No.
He fired
During
his
your
standby counsel.
investigation, were you ever able to make a confirmed scientific identification?
Yes.
What is the difference between a presumptive identification and a confirmed identification?
A presumptive identification or tentative identification means it might be that person, but we don't know for sure. A scientific identification is one where we can match hardware in the body, say that has serial numbers that match before death medical records, hardware in the body to the decedent, like a prosthesis, a hip joint, or a pacemaker. Those are two good pieces of hardware that are used for scientific identification. The other route we might go for scientific identification in a fresh body would be fingerprints. If somebody has fingerprints on file, they're a very good way to make identification. Or dentals. If we know where to get dental records for that decedent, we can get those antemortem or before death dental records and compare them to dental x-rays we take on the decedent while he's at our office. And that's how we were able to make scientific identification for this decedent.
And this decedent, is his name Carlos Maldonado?
Yes.
And you used dental records to confirm scientifically his identification?
Yes.
And were the teeth relatively intact? Is that how you were able to, or do those decay, or?
Teeth last a very, very long time. They'll actually last longer than bones in some instances. So his teeth were in good condition for a scientific identification.
When you come to the point of performing an autopsy, we talked about the external exam and the internal exam. For the external examination, is that where you are kind of describing identifying features if they're there?
Yes.
From there, do you move on to any injuries that are seen externally?
Yes.
Do you also note if there are any items related to medical intervention on the body?
Yes.
And this is all done prior to that Y incision that we generally think of when we hear about an autopsy.
Correct.
Once you make that Y incision, then, what is the process of the internal examination?
Generally, during a standard autopsy that requires a Y incision, the first thing we do upon opening the body is to collect body fluids like urine and blood, peripheral blood from the vein in the pelvis. That's the best specimen for toxicology. At the point at which we're done collecting body fluids and noting any trauma that we might see to the organs before we remove them. Then we eviscerate by taking out all of the organs in one block, from the neck to the colon.
And then once you take out all of the organs, do you perform any individual examinations on each of those?
Yes, we dissect each organ from one another. We weigh all the major organs and then further dissect each organ, noting any kind of pathology, anything that's abnormal, any injury, anything that shouldn't be there, like tumors, or any gross evidence that can be seen with the naked eye of any kind of disease process.
Once that is completed, do you then move to the head of the individual?
Yes.
And what examination is performed at that point?
The scalp is reflected to expose the skull, and then the skull cap or the calvarium is removed to expose the brain.
And then from there, do you proceed to the neck and kind of perform that same process of taking out any of the organs and dissecting and examining?
After the brain is removed, then we do a neck dissection and take out those organs. Correct.
Once you complete an autopsy, do you prepare a report based on all of your observations and your findings?
Yes.
Is that referred to as an autopsy protocol?
Yes.
And what are some general items of information in that autopsy protocol?
The front page details the decedent's name, age, date of autopsy, cause of death. The second page is findings, so the salient findings from the examination. The next section starts with descriptions of the external examination, clothing, medical interventions, identifying marks and scars like tattoos, and then the internal examination with a description of each organ. Then microscopic examination, if any was done or necessary, any laboratory studies that might have been done, and sometimes ends with a stipulation as to whether medical records were reviewed.
Madam Clerk, can you please take the screen off from the courtroom and just leave it on for the witness, please?
Yeah.
Dr. Shield, when it comes to Mr. Maldonado, were you able to perform that same autopsy process that we just discussed between the external examination and an internal examination with a Y incision?
No.
Why not?
Due to Mr. Maldonado's state of decomposition, he had very little soft tissue remaining. He had no viscera, which means body organs. There is no brain tissue left. So at the point at which I documented injuries, we then cleaned his bones, and our forensic anthropologist did an analysis. So there was no standard autopsy in Mr. Maldonado's case.
On the screen in front of you, do you see a 9-page document that's marked as State's Exhibit 118?
Yes.
And if I continue going through this document, is this the autopsy protocol that you prepared with your findings of the autopsy of Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
On the last page of your autopsy protocol, is this a hand-drawn diagram?
Yes.
Is this something that you drew at the time of the examination?
Yes.
And why did you draw a diagram? Is that something you normally add to an autopsy protocol?
It depends on the autopsy or the type of case. If we have many gunshot wounds, we might do a diagram, or complex injuries, we might do a diagram. For Mr. Maldonado, because it's difficult to depict in the photographs, the wrappings, the black plastic sheeting and the tarp, it's difficult to discern exactly where one starts and one ends, plus the items that were included with those objects. I just did a diagram of the wrappings, the ropes, the tape, and some other items that were found within the coverings.
And then looking at what is marked as Exhibit 119, is that a single-page document, which is the handwritten diagram at the end of your autopsy protocol?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I would move Exhibits 118 and 119 into evidence.
Mr. Lychwick, any objection to Exhibits 118 and 119? Mr. Lychwick continues to not respond to the court. Those exhibits will be admitted into evidence.
Thank you, and I would ask that they be published to the jury.
Mr. Lychwick, any objection to publication of those exhibits? No answer from the defendant. They will be used with the jury.
Okay, on the screen in front of you is Exhibit 119. So can you start kind of from the head and work your way down to the feet of Mr. Maldonado and explain what you saw along the way during your external examination?
Okay, so the very top of the diagram says grommet next, thank you, next to a circular depiction in the blue tarp. So there was a grommet in the blue tarp, and down below the second rope on your right side, there's a defect. Oh, keep going down, please. The very perimeter of the blue tarp. There's a hole next to the word defect. Yep, right there. There was another grommet there that had clearly been torn out, and you can see that on one of the lower ropes. The grommet that was torn out. So the blue tarp was partially wrapped around black plastic sheeting or black plastic garbage bag, and inside the torso region, that little green thing right there is a knotted up circular rendition of a t-shirt. This portion of t-shirt was torn. There was another piece of it that was torn off in about the same region, and this t-shirt was saturated with a thin red liquid. There were pieces of adhesive tape focally attaching the blue tarp to the black plastic, but mostly adherent to the black plastic. And around both pieces of the black plastic and the blue tarp were these 4 loops of rope. You can see now here the grommets. There are actually 2 grommets that were torn out of the tarp that were looped in this piece of rope. The 4th loop of rope was around Mr. Maldonado's ankle region, and the heel side of the diagram shows this fabric. There is a baseball cap inside the black plastic sheeting down at the feet. So I think that covers it.
It does, thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please put the screen back on just for Dr. Scheel? Yes. Dr. Scheel, is part of an autopsy, and in this case in particular, actually, with Mr. Maldonado, did you take various x-rays?
Yes.
And why did you take x-rays, and how was that done?
We take x-rays in every case that's going to be a forensic anthropology case. Mostly because our forensic anthropologists really like their bones and like seeing them in detail on skeletal radiographs. But for Mr. Maldonado, because he had to come to us wrapped in these coverings, I did a set of x-rays with the coverings all intact because I wanted to make sure we didn't lose any evidence by unwrapping the coverings. And by evidence, I mean, projectiles, bullets, things like that. Anything that would show up on an x-ray that we call radio opaque, that's metallic, and would show up. So we did a set of x-rays with all the wrappings intact. And then once Mr. Maldonado was out of the wrappings, we did another set. And then once he was cleaned up, we did a formal set for Dr. Truesdale's forensic anthropology and assessment.
Have you worked with Dr. Truesdale before?
Yes.
And And would that be under the same circumstances in which you have an individual who is partially or mostly skeletonized?
Yes.
When you performed that first set of x-rays on Mr. Maldonado, did you note or observe any of those or any projectiles or metallic opaque objects that you discussed?
Yes.
And did you later in the autopsy find out what those were?
Yes.
Were you able to tell, or were they recovered from particular areas of Mr. Maldonado's body?
Yes, one of the projectiles was in the soft tissues of the scalp that were still attached to the head or skull. And one of the projectiles was recovered from that decomposed soft tissue and liquid that we recovered from underneath his torso.
Dr. Scheel, in front of you, I'm showing you what a series of photos marked States Exhibits 120 through 139. During an autopsy, are photos taken at every stage by either yourself or one of your assistants or investigators?
Yes, usually one of my pathology assistants does the photos.
Okay.
That's somebody who works in the morgue rather than goes to scenes.
Thank you. Now, in scrolling through these photos here, I'll ask you to just watch as I go through them, and then I'll have some additional questions for you. Exhibit number 126, is that in black and white?
Yes.
Do you take photos, or I'm sorry, does anyone during the autopsy procedure take photos in black and white? Or is that something that was done in preparation for court today?
This was done in preparation for court.
And with autopsy photos, do they tend to be graphic in nature?
Yes.
And these are things that a lay person or a normal everyday citizen is not used to seeing. Is that fair?
Yes.
Does the black and white have the ability to still show the integrity of the photo while lessening some of the graphic nature of the photo?
Yes.
Okay. Continuing on then through this packet. Do you recognize those photos or the items in those photos from the autopsy of Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
Now, once the autopsy is completed, all the x-rays are completed, and the bones are cleaned, do you then note or continue examining for any signs of trauma or injury to the bones?
Yes.
And do you, in an example of, let's say, a gunshot wound, do you use probes to try to understand the trajectory of the bullet as it went through an individual's body?
Yes.
I'm showing you now a second set of photographs that contain photos of States Exhibit 169 through 172. Do you recognize those photos as well?
Yes.
Are those 4 photos of Mr. Maldonado's skull?
Yes.
Looking then at the packet of photos in States Exhibit 173 through 177, that top one is fairly small, and I don't know why, so I'll zoom in for you. Oops, that's way too small. Do you recognize what is in exhibits 173 to 177?
Yes.
And is this or are these various photographs of a vertebrae from Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
Which vertebrae is this?
L2, the lumbar or second lumbar vertebrae.
Okay. At this time, I would move exhibits 120 through 139, 169 through 172, and 173 through 177 into evidence and ask to publish to the jury.
Mr. Lychwick, any objection to the receipt of those exhibits? Mr. Lychwick does not acknowledge the court. Those exhibits will be received.
May I publish?
Any objection to publication, Mr. Lychwick? Hearing none, they will be allowed to be used with the jury. Before we put them on the screen, Attorney Thompson, are you intending to go through all of those pictures?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see any of them.
Thank you. Now, once again, first I have Exhibit 119, just to kind of refresh everyone's memory on an overview, because it's a little bit hard to decipher once we get to the actual in-person photos. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
It's easy for you because you know exactly what you're looking for. Now, starting with Exhibit 120, what are we looking at here?
Okay, on the right side or far side from me is Mr. Maldonado's head region. The outer covering is the blue tarp. It's covered by black plastic inside the blue tarp. Moving down, you can see some ribs. Right there is a scapula, part of the pelvis. On top of the bag, the black sheeting is a portion of a cardboard box. And down here is his foot area. You can see those ropes are still intact. And in that red bag is some of the decomposed soft tissues that were gathered from underneath the body outside the tarp at the scene.
Moving on to Exhibit 121, as we zoom in closer to Mr. Maldonado's feet area, what observations do you make here?
There's still some residual vegetation over the surface of the black sheeting. You can see the white woven rope that's binding the sheeting in place.
During the examination, did you ever undo the knots on these ropes?
No.
Then how did you remove them? Did you cut them at all, or did you slide them off?
We slid them off. Okay. It's very important to preserve knots and any kind of bindings or ropes because there might be DNA evidence within those knots.
In Exhibit 122, this is at the front of Mr. Maldonado's head?
Yes. So there's...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. The white rope around his head and shoulder region. There's some vegetation inside between the blue tarp and the black plastic. Go ahead.
Now, Exhibit 123, can you tell, this is obviously a close-up of one of the ropes, but can you tell which area of Mr. Maldonado's body this was recovered from or observed on?
I can't, no.
Okay. In Exhibit 124, is this more of the middle of Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
What did you notate in this area of Mr. Maldonado?
There is adhesive tape right there on that black plastic. I think that's...
Is this another one of the ropes that you referenced?
Yes.
Now, in Exhibit 125, do you know what this is here towards the middle bottom of this photo that I'm circling my cursor around?
That is the baseball hat that was found in the foot region of that black plastic sheeting. It's probably a different color because this was taken on a different day than the other photos of the baseball hat.
Okay. Exhibit 126. What do you notice here in terms of trauma? Just at the initial site of this skull.
Well, adjacent to the right side of the nasal aperture, which is the opening for the nose, which is right in the middle of the photo, there's a fracture, which would be the right maxilla, portion of the right cheekbone.
Now he's watching.
It's really hard to point this out to you because you've probably never seen a skull in this fashion, but there are fractures of the hard palate, which is the roof of the mouth, extending back into the base of the skull. But you can see that Mr. Maldonado's teeth of his mandible or lower jaw are in good condition.
Now, when we talk about these projectiles that you saw in the x-ray, where was the one recovered from Mr. Maldonado's head area?
That was the left posterior parietal region. If I can point that out, it's like right back here.
And you indicated it was outside of the skull, but still within the scalp.
Yes.
Okay. Then if we go to exhibit number 128, would this then just be a closer view of the projectile recovered from Mr. Maldonado's scalp?
Yes.
Okay. Oops, I'm sorry. Looking at exhibit 129, where was this projectile found?
This projectile was recovered from the soft tissue that was underneath Mr. Maldonado's torso.
And do you recall?
It was in that mass of dirt and soft tissue, in that red bag, if that helps you, if you remember that red biohazard bag.
So if you hadn't done that additional searching and collection in the meticulous manner in which you did, we may not have ever found this.
Right, and it was very helpful that the Waukesha PD had a metal detector because it hit on some of that decomposed soft tissue and dirt underneath the torso.
Your Honor, permission to approach?
You may.
So metal detector for the win.
Dr. Shield, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibits 155 and 156. They've previously been received. Take a look at them, please, and let me know when you're finished.
Now she's right behind the court recorder. He seems to have taken an interest in the remains.
Okay. One of the many stickers on that item, on both items, do you see your ME's office case number? WK242635?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a procedure for when you are recovering items from an autopsy so that there is some way to follow or remember that these items were taken from this autopsy?
Yes. This is the label that we use for all specimens collected during that autopsy. And the handwriting is my handwriting, and those are my initials to document that I was the one who collected and identified the material or the evidence.
And were you the one that placed these projectiles into the cardboard boxes?
Yes.
Why cardboard versus just keeping them in a plastic bag?
Well, if there's any biological evidence on the bullet, you don't want to just put it in a plastic bag because that tissue will continue to decompose. And you don't want to use a metal tin because a metal bullet's going to knock around against the inside of a metal tin and possibly mess up the rifling pattern or the ballistics evidence that can be gleaned from the bullet. So we use cardboard boxes. There's a little bit of absorbent foam or gauze in there if there is any biological tissue on the bullet.
And then can you see other stickers on that box aside from your Emmy's office sticker?
Yes.
Okay. If we look at exhibits 155 and 156, we can see the projectile is no longer within that cardboard box. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And in noticing that there's other stickers on there from other agencies, does that indicate to you that additional analysis was conducted on these projectiles you recovered from Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
Moving on to then exhibit 130, is this a closer view of the projectile located from Mr. Maldonado's torso area?
Yes.
Does it have a greenish tint to it?
Yes, it's oxidized.
So were these copper bullets?
Where they're copper colored, and most jacketing has at least some copper in it. That's why it turns green when exposed to oxygen.
And knowing that Mr. Maldonado was in the elements for approximately 6 months, is that consistent with the oxidation that you notice on these projectiles?
Yes.
We talked about a baseball hat that was found near Mr. Maldonado's feet in the black plastic sheeting. Is this the baseball hat in exhibit 131?
Yes.
Now, this hat, are you able to see that it is not originally a white or a gray colored hat?
I didn't know what color this hat was.
Okay. Is this dirt or biological fluids or tissue? I mean, what's on here? Do you know?
There is some biological tissue and maybe some dirt, but a lot of it looks like decomposed tissue.
And then exhibit 132, when we looked at that handwritten diagram, this knotted fabric, where did you find this within the tarp or the sheeting?
This was in the region of the torso in the black plastic sheeting.
Did you eventually unwrap or unknot this fabric?
I believe we did, yes.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure there wasn't anything inside the knot for this t-shirt. It was saturated with liquid, so the likelihood of there being anything evidentiary besides, say, an object in the knot was small.
Different than the ropes that you saw on each of those 4 sections of Mr. Maldonado's body, where you kept those intact.
Correct.
Okay. Moving on then to exhibit 133, what are we looking at here?
These are Mr. Maldonado's shoes. They're navy blue and black with white soles.
So these shoes, were they still on Mr. Maldonado's feet?
I believe so.
So at this point then, all of his feet bones were still inside of the shoes he was wearing.
Correct.
Now looking at exhibit 134, what is this?
This is some adhesive tape which was adherent to his hand bones.
Not the black plastic sheeting or the tarp?
Correct.
So we have tape in several areas of Mr. Maldonado's body. We have tape on his actual hand bones and tape on the black plastic sheeting that's surrounding him?
Yes.
Then moving on to Exhibit 135, where's this tape located from?
This tape was on the right side of his torso. I don't know if it was originally adherent to the black plastic or if it was tape that, came loose from his hands.
Okay. Now, we've been seeing kind of in the background when it comes to the items recovered during this autopsy, it looks like a white cloth type of material. What is the reason why you're placing all of these items on this cloth?
These are white paper evidence sheets, so they're not sterile, but they haven't been used before. So they're protecting all of the evidence gleaned from Mr. Maldonado's examination for contamination with any surfaces in the morgue and catching anything else that might be of evidentiary value as we remove and photograph these objects.
Does it also assist you then, you have something to write on to remind us as we look at these photos later where each item was recovered from on the body?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to Exhibit 136. What are we looking at here?
This is the length of rope that was around Mr. Maldonado's head region.
Exhibit 137.
The rope that was around his upper chest and right shoulder region.
The knots are all still intact.
Yes.
Exhibit 138.
The rope that was around his ankles.
And Exhibit 139.
The rope that was around his pelvis and legs. And that's further designated with front and back.
When we say back, is that underneath him?
Yes.
Okay. Now, once we go through the process then of the examination, you've taken all these photos of the items that are removed, are the bones then cleaned for that analysis? Or for the next part of this analysis?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we saw an exhibit, I think it was 126, that Mr. Maldonado's skull still had some tissue on it. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Now, once his bones are cleaned, are you then able to get a clearer picture of the trauma we saw in that exhibit?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to then the packet with exhibits 169 through 172. Starting with 169. This is still Mr. Maldonado's skull, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what are we looking at here when it comes to the section of your autopsy protocol where you are notating evidence of injury?
This is a depiction of the front of Mr. Maldonado's skull. So you can see again his teeth are in relatively good condition in his lower jaw. His nasal aperture, which is the opening to his nasal cavities, right there, is enlarged on the right side because there's a fracture of the cheekbone and right maxilla. Actually, the maxilla is almost totally missing in this photo because of these fractures. The fracture continues to behind the nose, and I don't think we can see very well in this photo, but it goes through the back of the face, which we also call the basilar, B-A-S-I-L-A-R, basilar skull, into the cranial cavity.
Now, if we look at, exhibit 170, and I'll exit out of this and maybe zoom in to assist with the next questions that I have. So looking at 170, what are we looking at here?
This is the left posterior parietal region of the skull. So the back of the head, like I designated earlier. There's a defect here that's very roughly triangular or bell-shaped. And this hole has a gray margin. So surrounding the hole, the skull looks like it's at a different level from the base of the hole to where the defect looks like it ends on the top of the skull surface. It's basically a gradient. This is called external beveling, and it's very helpful in telling us the directionality of a bullet, so the wound pathway. External beveling means there's this angular surface to the defect on the outside of the skull, and it means that the bullet passed through that skull to the outside, so it was moving front to back. So the bullet's pushing through the skull from the inside out. And around this defect are radiating linear fractures. They look like the spokes of a wheel. So this is a very typical, classic exit gunshot wound to the skull. Now, I say exit to the skull because this bullet did exit the skull. It just didn't have enough velocity to get through the scalp, which is why we were able to recover it, because it was still underneath that scalp tissue.
Moving on then to Exhibit 171, which actually probably would have been more helpful to have up when you were just discussing the beveling and the radiating fractures. But this is closer up of 170, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then if we go to Exhibit 172, does this show the probe that is used to assess the trajectory of the bullet as it goes through Mr. Maldonado's skull?
Yes.
And what was the trajectory of this bullet?
This bullet was traveling front to back, slightly upward, and slightly right to left. So if it enters his midface at about his nose, passes through his skull in an upward fashion, and then exits slightly to the left on the back of the skull. That's a front to back, slightly up, slightly right to left trajectory.
And so this, based on your training and your experience, this injury that we see here is a gunshot wound?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we go to Exhibits 173 and 177, are these photos then of the, I think you said L2 vertebrae?
Yes.
So can you give the jury an overview of the makeup of the spine so we can understand where on the person's spine or back we would be seeing this vertebrae?
Okay. So the skull sits on top of the first cervical vertebrae. That's the first vertebrae in the neck. There are 7 cervical vertebrae or neck vertebrae. The first thoracic vertebrae starts just below the nape of your neck and continues down your back. And there are 12 thoracic vertebrae. After the 12th thoracic vertebrae, the lumbar vertebrae start, and there are 5 lumbar vertebrae: L1, L2, L3, L4, and L5. And then there are sacral vertebrae, or the sacrum. So this is the second lumbar vertebrae, so we're talking lower back. The front of what you're looking at here, the bulky part, sits, this rounded bulky part is if you were looking at a person head on. So that's the front of the vertebrae. The back of the vertebrae comes to a point, and that's what you would feel through your skin if you're palpating or feeling your back. You'd feel the spinous process. So if you're looking at this vertebra, there is a fracture that starts on the right side of the body and continues, continues in an angular fashion towards the left side of the vertebral arch. So there's this bulky mass that's kind of rounded, that's the body, and the whole rest of the vertebrae is called the arch. And there are particular parts of the arch which you don't need to know, except that there are fractures through some of this arch on this particular vertebrae as well as the body, and there's a hole in a portion of this vertebral arch.
Now, Exhibit 174 is a much closer up version of Exhibit 173. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Now, on the left side here, we see that there almost looks like some rough, like a rough area of the L2. Is this broken?
It's broken, but it looks normal for what it's showing because there's a fracture there. The inside of a vertebra is porous, so it'll look like a sponge because it's built of bone marrow, which is a lot of blood cells and fat and tiny little bony fragments called trabecula. So it's supposed to look spongy, but there's not supposed to be a fracture there.
Okay, and this fracture here, what I'm dragging my cursor over, is that the fracture you're talking about?
That and the whole part that's exposing the porous surface, that's fractured too.
Okay,
Right there.
so this porous surface, that's not the same as the beveling, for example, that we saw on Mr. Maldonado's skull that we talked about earlier.
No.
Okay. So moving to Exhibit 175.
I think it was 5 months the victim wasn't
Can you
found
tell us
for.
what we're looking at here?
We're looking at a portion
5 or 6
of the
months.
vertebral arch, and you can see another fracture that extends all the way from the top of the vertebrae, it's a little blurry up there, through the arch there, and continues down to this point here.
And then, similar to the skull, did you also use a probe to determine the trajectory of this bullet as it went through Mr. Maldonado's L2 vertebra?
Yes. Okay. If we could go back a little bit.
Yes. Oops.
So what I didn't mention is that there's a hole right in the middle of what we call the lamina. That's that portion of vertebral arch that I was talking about that had a hole in it. There's a hole here, and this hole, this defect, does also exhibit external beveling, just like the exit gunshot wound to the skull did. There's just a little bit that you can see on the right side of the defect where the surface of the bone looks a little bit angled.
So this hole is not supposed to be here?
No.
Okay.
That's an extra hole.
Now, Exhibit 176.
Okay. So this probe is showing the trajectory of this bullet pathway. It's passing from anterior on the right side, traveling backwards through this hole that we saw in the vertebral arch and out. So this would be out towards the skin of the lower back.
Dr. Scheel, when we talk about the trajectory of the bullets, obviously we can determine that here based on what we have. Are you able to tell how close an individual was to Mr. Maldonado when these two gunshots were fired?
No.
Why not?
We don't have any skin surrounding the entrance gunshot wounds that might show as soot or stippling, which is gunpowder tattooing of the skin surrounding the entrance gunshot wound. Because we don't have soft tissue or skin to detail those entrances for us, we cannot determine range of fire.
Is that something you could otherwise do if you still had soft tissue?
Yes.
If maybe we had found Mr. Maldonado the day after he was killed?
Correct.
Are you able to tell, based on your examination and the state of Mr. Maldonado's body, which gunshot wound happened first?
No.
If you had...
No.
if you still had soft tissue, or if we had located Mr. Maldonado's body the day after he was killed, is that something you might be able to determine?
There would be more of a chance of determining that, yes, if he had been fresh.
Okay. When we talk about the L2, and I think in general, when people think of the spine and an injury to it, a very quick thought is possible paralysis. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Are you able to tell, based on the path of travel of this bullet, whether or not Mr. Maldonado would have been paralyzed from this gunshot wound?
I don't know if he would have been or not. This particular vertebra sits at just the level where the spinal cord branches. There's the terminus of the spinal cord, and it branches into a lot of little tentacles that look like a horse's tail. That's why it's called the cauda equina. That's CAUDA-EQUINA. So L2 designates the point at which the spinal cord separates into the little nerve trails that are called the cauda equina. So it's very possible that his legs would have been paralyzed, or he would have suffered a spinal cord injury, but I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly, because everybody's a little bit anatomically different, how that would have manifested in Mr. Maldonado. It would have been a low paralysis, meaning a low spinal cord paralysis, had he been paralyzed.
Attorney Thompson, I'd like to take a break now, if we could.
Sure.
All right, so let's take a 10-minute break, and we will resume. Again, I'll remind you, ladies and gentlemen, to not discuss the case amongst yourselves.
All right.
Mr. Lychwick is more animated today. He's been writing notes. I expect the judge to make a record of that about right now, as soon as the jury leaves, so we'll hear about that. Judge heading back to his chambers to get out his little skeleton and point out on the skeleton where the injuries occurred. Mr. Lychwick is faking illness again.
We are outside the presence of the jury. I called for a break just because we're at the 10:07 mark and figured it would be a good time. Do you anticipate having much more direct?
No.
Okay. I didn't want to put you on the spot, though, to ask you first before calling for the break. Anything the state wants to put on the record before we break?
No, thank you.
Mr. Lychwick, anything from you?
Yes. This so-called trial is a travesty of justice. I am not receiving a fair trial. I have no defense. You won't give me a chance to ramp up my defense or obtain a defense. I've had no chance to do so. I've been locked up and isolated from the world in this jail for 18 months, denied medical care and proper food and rest. I cannot be expected to defend myself under these circumstances.
Your continued objections are noted. I'll make a record that while testimony has been going on today, first the defendant has what appears to be some materials with him today. The defendant was writing notes during Dr. Shields' testimony and also reading through his materials, so he's active and alert. He's just choosing not to participate. We will break and come back at in about 10 minutes.
Can you give him a G5 pen or a G2 pen? Gets up and grabs a bottle of water. All right, it's a travesty. This is a travesty, I tell you. I can tell you one thing. Mr. Lychwick isn't going to object. So the cameraman gets away with it, although he shouldn't be zooming in on the notes. I think what he wrote today, I think we're all in agreement that it was not actually preparation for cross-examination of the ME, which would have been wise. We think it was more his manifesto or perhaps a letter to the governor or the boss judge. Let's see. We can fast forward a little bit. We sure can. Thank you for the reminder. We're going to try to get caught up here. Let's see, where are we at? We're on 6, right? We're on 7. We do 7. Hopefully we don't. There's no break, guys. There's no break. What? What in the world? Break's over. Break's over. You don't get a break. I'm sorry. We're catching up. This trial is a travesty of justice.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, everyone is situated. Attorney Thompson, you may continue.
Thank you. Dr. Shield, before we broke, we were just talking about how there were a couple things you aren't able to opine on based on the lack of soft tissue present. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Although you can't tell which gunshot wound happened first, actually, before I ask that question, when we're talking about the gunshot wound to Mr. Maldonado's torso area, to the L2 vertebra, you talked about how that trajectory is front to back. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So entering the front of his body and then the back. So with that path of travel, what organs would have been potentially in the path of that bullet?
The right kidney, probably the ascending colon, the inferior vena cava, which is the largest vein in the body. Depending on when a a bullet passes through the body, it creates a temporary cavity due to the explosion of gases. And depending on how big that cavity was, it could have also gotten a portion of the small intestine and the pancreas. So while not immediately fatal, it could have been fatal.
Were you able to come to an estimated date of death for Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
And was that April 14th of 2024?
Yes.
How were you able to come to that conclusion?
When we are dealing with such an extended post-mortem interval, meaning the time since death, as with Mr. Maldonado, in the state of decomposition, the longer you are from the actual date of death till the discovery of the body and examination, the longer that interval, the harder it gets to determine date of death. So sometimes our best evidence is last known well or last seen alive. So for Mr. Maldonado, he was last seen alive and actually caught on video on April 14th, 2024, wearing the same clothing that I identified on him at autopsy. That was the best evidence I had that he had been alive at some point on April 14th, but then was never seen again.
Madam Clerk, can you please place the screen on for the courtroom? And I'm going to pull up Exhibit 118, which is your autopsy protocol.
Are you requesting publication of that?
Yes, please.
Mr. Lychwick, any objection to publishing Exhibit 118? Mr. Lychwick does not respond. It may be published.
Do you see that exhibit sticker at the bottom right for 118?
Yes. Yes.
And is this your signature at the bottom of the first page of your autopsy protocol?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when we talk about these two gunshot wounds, even though we can't tell which one happened first, could either one of those gunshot wounds have been fatal to Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
At the conclusion of your investigation in this matter, what was the cause of death? What was the cause and manner of death for Mr. Maldonado?
Mr. Maldonado's cause of death was homicidal violence with gunshot wounds to head and torso. His manner of death was homicide.
I do not have any other questions for this witness.
All right.
Mr. Lychwick, do you have cross-examination questions? Mr. Lychwick is not acknowledging the court. Therefore, doctor, you may sit down. Thank you.
And Judge, before I call my next witness, I just want to ensure that all exhibits I used with Dr. Scheel to include 117, 118, and 119, 120 through 139, 169 through 172 are all admitted and received by the court.
And I also have 173 through 177.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, those are all admitted and received. I do have some exhibits on the witness stand. Attorney Thompson, if you could deliver those to my clerk, please.
Yeah, I'll use them. The state next calls Pamela Taylor.
Pamela Taylor.
Ms. Taylor, you can come up to the witness stand here. When you get up to the chair, please remain standing and raise your right hand to be sworn in by my clerk.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. You can have a seat. When you are situated and close to the microphone, please start by stating your name, spelling your first and last for the record.
Pamela Taylor, Pamela Taylor.
Ms. Taylor, how are you employed?
I'm employed with the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory in Milwaukee as a DNA analyst.
How long have you been with the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
Over 12 years.
Have you been a DNA analyst that entire time, or have you worked in any other disciplines?
I primarily work in DNA. For about 7 years of that time, I also cross-trained into crime scene photography. So I did that with a crime scene team and then resigned from that about 1.5 years ago.
What are your duties as a DNA analyst with the State Crime Lab?
My primary duties include taking items of evidence, examining those items to possibly develop DNA profiles, and then doing the same for any standards or known profiles, and then comparing to either include or exclude people from the evidence.
Is the State Crime Lab in which you work at accredited?
Yes, it is.
What does it mean to be accredited?
Accreditation is an outside agency or laboratory that comes into our laboratory to verify that our protocols and the training and the process that we do for DNA analysis is accurate and consistent with the forensic community.
Madam Clerk, can you please place the screen on just for the witness? Ms. Taylor, I'm showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 111. It's a 4-page document, and as I'm scrolling through it at the end, I'll ask you if you recognize what this is.
Yes.
What is this?
This is my statement of qualifications. This is basically the training, the number of times I've testified, and any presentations that I've given and training I've received over the last 12 years.
Do you update this throughout your career?
Yes.
And is this the most up-to-date one you have as of today's date?
The only thing that has changed on this since this was submitted was that I testified yesterday in a different court case, so the amount of testimonies would be a little bit higher.
So you've been very busy this week, is that fair to say?
I'm very busy every week.
Okay. Now, can you please explain to the jury your education?
I hold a Bachelor of Science degree in molecular biology, as well as a minor in chemistry and a minor in forensic science. I then completed a training program at the crime laboratory, which included the extraction process of DNA, and the instrumentation we use to develop DNA profiles, interpretation of those profiles, comparisons, report writing, and technical review.
As part of your education then, do you also have continuing education in the field even once you become a DNA analyst?
Yes, each analyst is required to do a minimum of 8 hours continued education per year, as well as reading 4 literature articles and proficiency testing, which are 2 tests that are submitted to each analyst. And these are basically run as a mock test or mock trial, as if we were working actual casework, and then we submit those results back to the agency that we get those from, and those have to be accurate and consistent with the results that we were supposed to get.
Now, when I'm looking at pages 2 and 3 of your statement of qualifications, these are 2 full pages where you list approximately 70 items.
It's a lot.
Or, 70 other trainings or continuing educational courses that you have attended over your career. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
Have you always been in your career a DNA analyst with the Wisconsin State Crime Lab, or do you have any other scientific employment prior to coming to the crime lab?
I worked as a microbiologist 2 years prior to working at the crime laboratory in a food processing facility, and then transferred over to the crime lab and have been doing this ever since.
Okay.
Switch to inedible samples.
Now, are you published or have you given any presentations regarding DNA analysis?
I have not actual published articles, but I have written articles and done presentations on DNA analysis for different school projects, colleges, and then I also did mock crime scene training for the University of Whitewater.
Does it say on here approximately how many times you have testified at trial about DNA testing and identification, in addition to what you just talked about happened yesterday?
Yes, we keep track of the amount of times we've testified, and including this one and the one yesterday, I have testified 164 times in court.
Have you ever been asked to keep track of or been asked the question of approximately how many items of evidence you have looked at in your career for DNA analysis and identification?
I have been asked to approximate the number. Each case is different as far as how many items are submitted and the complexity of them. 1 year, I did keep track of an approximate number, and it was 110,000 samples that year.
110,000 samples in 1 year?
Yes.
When we talk about how those samples are received to the crime lab, can you describe for the jury what the process is once a law enforcement agency either drops off items for testing, or are they sometimes mailed in for testing?
Yes, once the laboratory receives items of evidence from different crime scenes or investigations, it is then given a specific case number, and that case number is specific to either the Milwaukee, Madison, or Wausau labs, and then also given the year and the number case that has been submitted. Then each of the items are given a item designation, either number or letter, depending on what year it was, and then those items are then stored in a secure storage area until the analyst is ready to work them. We then take those items into custody. We work each of the items of evidence first, and then extract those samples, run them through the process to possibly develop DNA profiles. And then we do the same afterwards with standards or known profiles, and then we can make our comparisons.
Okay. Now, when we talk about a report number being created for these items or this particular case, did it used to be designated as an R number, so maybe R241234?
Yes, R was the representing number for Milwaukee, because Madison is M. So yes, we used R, and then 24 would be the year that it was submitted, 1994, and then the year each item or each case that is submitted. So if it's case number 1000. That was the 1000th case that has been submitted at that year.
Now, as part of that intake process, are the items received for testing always checked to ensure that there is no tampering or broken seals or anything that would affect the integrity of that sample?
Yes, the evidence specialists look over each of the items of packaging to verify there's no holes, any tape missing, and that the initials and date of the person that had sealed that item are present on that packaging.
If the evidence specialist noted any kind of broken seal, missing sticker, signatures, etc., if they noticed an issue like that, would that have been notated somewhere on or on paperwork related to that sample?
Yes, it is. There is a case file for each case that is submitted, and any issues like that would be noted in the case file.
Okay. Now, let's say when you receive an item and it receives a designation from the crime lab as item A, are there times where an item may be broken up and given sub-designation numbers? So let's say A1, A2, A3.
Yes.
And are those sub-designations always listed separately on any report that you or any other analyst in your lab authors to ensure that we can track which item is being tested?
Yes, each item of evidence, if it is split into multiple items of evidence, will be given a specific designation number. So if I'm working item 1, then even in another discipline, they're going to know what item 1 is, and any sub-designations from that will be referred to in my notes.
And have you seen it in your experience, could one item be submitted to the crime lab and law enforcement request various disciplines test that item?
Yes.
For example, if someone submitted a firearm to the crime lab, the law enforcement department could request a firearms identification or DNA analysis or latent print analysis?
Yes.
Based upon the nature of the type of analysis being requested, would certain disciplines test the item first before going to other disciplines?
Yes, it will.
Okay, can you give me an example of, let's say, a firearm? Let's say the department wanted both prints and DNA and firearm identification.
If we receive a firearm at the crime laboratory, DNA will typically swab that item first. This is basically because we are trained not to cross-contaminate by wearing gloves and making sure that our DNA does not get on anything. The firearms examiners typically just analyze the firearm and the cartridges or the fired evidence. So they are not as trained to handle it without gloves. So if I have a firearm, I will analyze it first, do my swabbings. If fingerprints or the ident department also has to work that item, we typically meet together and we will swab for DNA on the rough surfaces of a firearm, and fingerprints will typically leave analysis for the smooth areas because it's easier to get a fingerprint off a smooth area of a firearm. And so we won't cross what we're testing.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Now, once or in between testing, is that sample kept, I think you said, in a secure area of the crime lab?
When an item is first submitted to the lab, once it goes through the labeling designation, then it is put into a secure area. So a firearm will be stored in the vault in the firearms department until it's ready to be worked, in which case I would go retrieve it from the vault. If it is a DNA item that it does not require firearms, it is typically stored in a walk-in freezer. And then once I receive that item, I have a stocked storage area that I keep my items of evidence and then return it to wherever I need to for another analyst to lock it into their secure area.
Once all requested analyses are done on a particular item, is the item then repackaged and resealed and relabeled once it's finished?
If I have an item such as a firearm and I have subdesignated that into, say, item 1A, B, C, and D, I will designate that on the outside of the box. I will write that out on the outside of the box or add additional labeling. That way another discipline will know all of those items are contained within. And then, I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
And then once we know what items are contained within, is it then sealed with tape or initials or date or anything like that?
Yeah, so every time an item of evidence moves from one discipline to another, it needs to be resealed and then signed and dated by that analyst, and then it goes to the next discipline.
And then once an item is completely finished with any testing from all the disciplines requested, does the item then get sent back to the police departments?
Yes.
Do they usually come and pick up those items, or are they mailed back, or something else?
It could be either one.
Okay. Now, shifting gears completely a little bit to DNA. What is DNA?
DNA is the biological material found in all living things. Each person will inherit half of their DNA from their mother and half from their father. Each person's DNA profile will be unique to that individual, except in the case of identical twins. It is the same throughout your body. It won't change over time. And it is found in every cell of your body except for red blood cells because they lack the nucleus.
If I touch something or handle an item, does that automatically mean my DNA is definitely going to be on that item?
It's possible that either the DNA is too low to recover a usable profile, or it's possible that the DNA was not transferred.
Okay, so if we're talking about the transfer of DNA via touch, would that be skin cell transfer?
Yes.
And are there a number of factors that can affect, first of all, how much DNA is deposited and whether or not there's enough for you to detect in your analysis?
Yes.
What if, or could the surface of the item you're touching affect that?
Yes.
So for example, if I touch my cup here that has a smooth surface, because it's smooth, is that in your training experience less likely to hold on to DNA?
Yes, we typically, I have found through the different amount of testing that I've done, have found that rough surfaces, like the grip of a firearm typically has a rough surface, will scrape off or retain more DNA skin cells than a smooth surface. So there is no test to determine how much DNA is going to be left in an item based on that, but just in experience, we tend to recover more DNA from an area that's got a rougher surface or has been held longer.
And when we talk about how long you touch an item, that can affect it, or what happens to the item in between when you touch it and the DNA is attempted to be swabbed from that item. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Are there also environmental factors that can affect how much DNA you can obtain from an item?
Yes.
What about, when we talk about skin cells, are there also bodily fluids that contain DNA?
Yes, all bodily fluids will contain DNA in a sense. Blood, semen, and saliva are the typical ones that we test for, and we have either confirmatory or presumptive testing. Saliva itself does not contain DNA. It just carries the skin cells from the inside of the cheek into the saliva, and then that gets deposited onto an item.
Okay. Now, when you receive swabs of an item from the police department, let's say, have you seen it where the officers don't send the physical item and instead they send swabs they took of the item?
Yes, that's very common.
Okay. So once you analyze that swab, then you can't look at the DNA and say whether it's fresh or old. Is that correct?
No, DNA analysis determines the DNA profiles that are present on an item if they've been recovered. We cannot tell how it got there or how long it's been there.
Okay. You can just tell what's there and come to a conclusion about the presence of a DNA profile in that sample.
Yes.
Okay. Now, have there been times in your career where you obtain swabs from a police department, or maybe you get the items and you do your own swabs, and through your analysis, there might be not enough DNA information in that sample to come to a conclusion or go on for further testing?
Yes.
And when we're talking about that low-level DNA that's insufficient for testing, does your crime lab have a threshold for the amount of DNA that needs to be present so that it's capable of going on for further testing?
Yes, after the extraction process, which takes the DNA out of the cell material and away from any of the swabs that are submitted, this isolates the DNA in a liquid. And then we do a process to determine the concentration of that DNA, and it has to be over 0.10067 nanograms per microliter. And this is a very small amount of DNA, but it has to be over that threshold, otherwise we know it won't produce a profile. So it's a test that we do to determine how much DNA is in there, and if it's not sufficient, then that sample will stop at that point.
Once you're finished with your analysis on whether it's one item or 7 items, do you then prepare a report based upon your findings and your conclusions?
Yes.
Did you prepare a report for the case that you're here to testify about today?
Yes, I did.
So before I start going into that report with you, I had a question about a few phrases that we'll see on this report as we go through it together. When I say single source profile, what is that?
A single source profile is a set of numbers that refer to repeat segments on the DNA chromosomes. And we look at 23 locations, and this will be unique to the individual. So each person here even will have their own set of numbers at those 23 locations. And a single source profile is basically a one-to-one comparison with any standards or known profiles.
Are there times where you are analyzing an item and you see or report a mixture?
Yes.
What does that mean?
A mixture is basically opposite of a single source profile, which is one person contributing, is multiple people. And we can analyze up to 5 people contributing to the profile. So instead of 2 numbers at each of those locations that we look at, if you have a 2-person mixture, it can have 4 numbers and so on. So it makes the analysis more complex and the statistics a little less definitive as if a person is in the profile or not.
Okay. Is it common to see mixtures when you're analyzing DNA on an item?
It's more common to see mixture profiles with touch DNA than it would be for any bodily fluid.
Okay. Now, if you have a mixture, are you able to say which contributor last left their DNA on this item?
No.
Okay. Is it possible to have mixtures that are too low level?
Yes.
And is that for the same reasons we discussed earlier?
Yes, even if the sample gets through the initial process of having enough DNA in the concentration, it is possible that it produces a profile that cannot be used for interpretation based on the limited amount of DNA that's still present. So while it produces a profile, it doesn't meet the requirements that we have at the lab for inclusion or exclusion. So we state it on the report, but we don't use it for any analysis.
Can you end up with a mixture where you have enough DNA present and it's above that threshold, but it's too complex?
Yes, the other side of that is if we have basically 6 or more contributors, the profile is considered too complex and unreliable for inclusion or exclusion based on the fact that people can share numbers, and there typically isn't a separation of contributors, so everybody's contributed on the same level. It's hard to tell which ones belong to which people. So also based on our training and our manuals, we're not allowed to make any conclusions on that, so we don't use those as well.
When you are working with a mixture, when you come to a conclusion after you're done analyzing this, do you report that through the use of a likelihood ratio?
If we have a one-to-one comparison, so a single source profile compared to a standard, this is a different statistic. This is called an RMP, or a random match probability, and this is done through a different program. The likelihood ratio is a statistic we use to explain two opposing thoughts. The one thought is this mixture is made up of the person of interest, or the comparison being made, and say an unknown individual in a two-person mixture, or is this better explained saying this is two unknown people, saying that the types there or the numbers there do not match either of these people, and we don't know who these two people are.
Okay. What is a buccal swab?
A buccal swab is a swabbing of the inside cheek of an individual, and this is simply to collect the skin cells from the inside cheek. And this is used as a known standard or a known profile from an individual.
Fair to say you're not the one taking that buccal swab from a known individual, is that correct?
I've never taken a buccal swab from an individual for
Okay,
a
so,
case.
I'm sorry.
No, we've done it for training, but not for an actual case.
Okay, so if you were to receive a buccal swab at your crime lab, that's coming from the law enforcement officers who took that buccal swab from an individual's mouth.
That's correct.
Are you familiar with an STR profile?
Yes.
What is an STR profile in terms of DNA analysis?
STR, or short tandem repeats, are the segments of DNA that we analyze. So a short tandem repeat itself is a segment of DNA that repeats the code over and over and over. So at one location, it may have 17 times that same code repeats, and then that's the number that we use in the location that we use for comparisons.
Sorry, just writing a note. Now, when we talk about using those locations, are those locations what make up a person's DNA profile?
In the type of testing that we do, yes. So we look at 23 locations, and each of those locations will have two numbers. So the collection of those numbers in that order is what makes the DNA profile unique to that individual, and each person's numbers in that order will be different across the world.
Okay. Now, if you are analyzing a mixture, do you use a software called STR Mix or Star Mix?
Yes.
And what does that software do to assist you in analyzing the mixture of DNA profiles that you're observing?
StarMix is a mathematical and biological modeling system. It's a computer program that basically, if I enter in the fact that this is a three-person mixture, saying 3 people are contributing to this profile, it will then separate the mixture into the percentage of each contributor. So one person may be contributing 75% of that DNA. The second person may be 20%, and the last person would be 5%. So it can separate the likelihood of those numbers in each person, and then I can use any standards or known profiles to compare to those percentages in those analyzed set of numbers, and it will give me the likelihood ratio. Is this person one of these 3 people based on those numbers matching, or is this person excluded because the numbers don't match?
When we are going through your report, are there When we're going through your report, are there numerical values for reporting your conclusions along with verbal or specific words to describe your conclusion?
Yes, we use two different numbers. Well, we have a numerical value, which has a statistic attached to it, which you will see. And then there's also what we call a verbal qualifier. And StarMix uses a couple different levels of verbal qualifiers, depending on how strong that statistic is of that person being included or excluded.
Now, Ms. Taylor, I'm showing you what should be on your screen as States Exhibit 112. It's a 12-page document, and as I scroll through it, if you could follow along with me, and I'll have some questions for you at the end. Do you recognize Exhibit 112?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is the report I wrote for R242973.
And is this a result of the DNA analysis you conducted on the various items listed in or on page 1?
Yes.
Is that your signature at the top of the report there as well?
Yes.
And what's the date of this report?
February 24th, 2025.
And at the bottom of each page, starting with page 2, do you have your initials at the bottom of the page as well?
Yes.
Is this a fair and accurate record of the report that you submitted at the conclusion of your DNA analysis in this case?
Yes, it is.
Have you made any additions, corrections, or modifications to this report?
No.
At this time, I would move Exhibit 112 into evidence and ask to publish to the jury.
Mr. Lychwick, any objection to Exhibit 112 coming into evidence? There's no objection from the defendant. It is received. Any objection to 112 being published, Mr. Lychwick? The defendant does not acknowledge the court. It may be used with the jury.
Now, before we get started with the actual testing, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the verbal qualifier that you referenced. If we go to page 12 of 12 of your report, is there a chart here in the middle of the page?
Yes, this is the verbal qualifier chart that represents the numerical values that we receive from the StarMix program when comparisons are made, and the verbal qualifier is to the strength of that inclusion or exclusion.
So if we were to see on a report very strong support for inclusion, is that the highest level that the crime lab can report?
Yes, typically the statistics that we receive can be higher than that number, but we cap it at very strong support for inclusion because the numbers for statistics can get a little high and unrelatable.
Okay, and when we talk about numbers, are we talking about trillions and quadrillions or 5 and 10?
We're talking about quadrillion and higher.
Okay. Now, is it also possible then, I see on here, uninformed, at the type of scenario where we maybe have too complex a mixture or too low-level DNA, or what circumstances would we see that?
Typically, if you have say a 3-person mixture and you have somebody at a 5% contribution to that profile, that basically means there's not a lot of information of who that person is. Some of the numbers may be dropping out, some information just might not be there. So there's not enough to consistently or confidently say somebody is included or not. So we say, yes, we did the comparison. We don't have enough information to be confident in the answer to that. So we use uninformative to be conservative in our answer.
And then when we're talking about exclusion, is it possible to completely exclude someone versus very strong support for exclusion?
Yes, the more information we have in the profile, so the more DNA that's being contributed. So if you have a 75% contributor or even a 20% contributor, that's a lot of information that we can use. And the higher the contributor, the more information we'll receive. And it can go either way for inclusion or exclusion. So the more information I have and I make those comparisons, either if they match or those numbers are consistent, the statistic will go up, and it will go from moderate to strong to very strong support. And the same with, well, it's the same with either inclusion or exclusion.
Okay. Now, having all of that background, going back to page 1 of Exhibit 112, this list of items we see here, those are all designations that the crime lab has used to identify each of these items. Is that correct?
Yes.
And all of these items would have been taken from the police department, which may have their own number associated with each item based on property inventory numbers. Is that correct?
Yes, our letter designation is going to be separate from the agency's numerical, typically, designation for each item.
Okay. Now, if we look at items C through F, those are ropes from around Carlos Maldonado's body. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you know who Carlos Maldonado is?
No.
Do you need to know that in order to conduct your DNA analysis here?
No, it's best that I don't.
Okay. Now, item G, pulled scalp hair from Carlos Maldonado. What was the purpose of the scalp hair? Or I guess maybe a better question would be, what can you potentially do with scalp hair as it relates to DNA analysis?
Typically, when we have a decedent, we will get a dried blood standard from an autopsy, and this is the same as a buccal swab standard from an individual that's living, and this is basically to produce a single source known profile for comparisons. In this case, the condition of Mr. Maldonado's blood was not sufficient to do for testing, so a substitute, I guess you could say, is hair from the scalp to possibly produce a DNA profile.
And in just kind of foreshadowing, were you able to develop a DNA profile of Mr. Maldonado from this scalp hair?
No.
And why was that?
Typically, when somebody is in the condition that he was in, the bacteria is so high that it inhibits or prevents the recovery of DNA profiles. So while it was attempted, no profile was able to be developed based on the amount of bacteria that was present in the sample.
And then if we move to items Z, AA, AB, AC, and AD. Actually, not yet AD, I'm sorry. But those first four, it looks like swabs from various areas of a pair of boots. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and in this case, you did not actually get the boots at the crime lab. This is clearly designated as swabs from the boot?
Correct.
So the police department would have taken those swabs then and submitted the swabs?
Yes.
And when I say swabs, are we talking like Q-tips?
A swabbing from an item is typically what looks like a Q-tip. It's got a long wooden stem like a Q-tip, but it only has the cotton on one side. And these are typically used by agencies and at the crime laboratory to swab certain areas of physical evidence, and then we cut the swabs off of those sticks, and then we use that as our analysis sample.
Okay. Then going to item AD, that appears to be a pistol with towels wrapped around the barrel and rubber bands and a magazine. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And then are there sub-designations for that pistol?
Yes.
And why would there have been sub-designations for this pistol?
When I received the item for AD, the pistol with the towels and the rubber bands, it came in as a whole unit. So when I received it, I then took it apart in steps with a photographer, and I took the rubber bands off, put those and sub-designated those separately, and then I took the towels off, and there were 2 towels, so those were sub-designated separately, and then the pistol and the magazine. So each of the items were separated, and then sections of them were given certain designations before testing was conducted.
Now, when we go to items AE, AF, AG, and AH, those are swabs from various locations on the pistol item AD, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you recall, did you do the swabs from the pistol, or would that have been received from the police department?
If they are listed in this way, they were swabs given to me from the police department.
Okay. And then item AJ, is that a buccal swab standard from an individual named Kevin W. Lychwick?
Yes, it is.
Do you know who Kevin Lychwick is?
No.
Do you need to know who he is in order to perform your DNA analysis?
No, I do not.
And just like Mr. Maldonado, it's better that you don't know.
Yes, it's a conflict of interest if I know anybody in any of the cases that I analyze.
Okay. So now, when we go to the screening portion of your report, which is page 2, what are we talking about with this section here?
If any screening testing is done, such as the possible identification or testing of bodily fluids or hairs, things like that, this is summarized in this section of the report.
Okay. So when we talk about the rope from around Carlos Maldonado's ankles, blood was not detected on that. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then when we talk about the interior blue towel around the barrel of the pistol, blood was not detected on that.
Correct.
When we talk about the exterior blue towel on the pistol, was blood identified on that?
Yes.
And if you are saying blood was identified, does that mean it's the presumptive screening, or did you do the confirmation testing to say that this is blood?
There's two different tests for blood. One is a presumptive test called phenolphthalein testing, or Kasselmeyer test.
I have some of that in
and
my
this
closet.
basically says I have a red-brown stain, or the police suspect that there could be blood on this item. So I will take a small piece of that and then test it with 2 different chemicals, and this is a color indication test. So if it turns like a hot pink color, it means it's positive, but this is still a presumptive test. It says it could be blood. This also cross-reacts with other things, such as metals, copper, things like that. A confirmatory test says, is this blood, is this human blood? And this will only be a positive test if it comes back as a positive result for human blood. It also does cross-react with weird things like regular ferrets and primates.
Ferrets?
Okay. Now, when we continue going through your report then, any item that came in that received sub-designations, is that what we see here in this chart at the end of page 2 and then going into or onto page 3?
I have phenolphthalein in my
And is this then
closet.
how you can track each item and what's tested and what the results are?
Yes.
Okay. As we go to this DNA analysis section here, once you start processing these items for DNA analysis, are there some items that you attempted DNA isolation, but you were unable to develop profiles from these items?
Yes.
And would those be the items where we see the words inconclusive or present but limited?
Yes.
Okay. And for the present limited, does that mean that there just wasn't enough of a concentration of DNA?
Yes, so when the test is done to determine the concentration, and it has to be 0.0067 nanograms per microliter, if it is below this number, then it is called present limited, meaning, yes, there's DNA present, but it's not going to produce a profile, and it's under that threshold.
So when we look at, in the middle here, where my cursor is, we have items AA1, AB1, and AE1. Do you see that?
Yes.
If we specifically look at AB1 and AE1, those are swabs from the magazine of the pistol. Is that correct?
He's paying attention. Maybe
believe
this
so,
is the
yes.
evidence he thinks is
Okay.
tainted.
And when we look at that section here, it says present present, and then autosomal STR. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when we see those answers in each of the columns, does that mean you went on for additional DNA testing then?
Yes, the first present basically means there is enough human DNA, it's over that threshold, and we can continue on with the DNA testing process. There's also part of that test that determines the amount of male compared to human DNA present, which basically isolates just the Y chromosome. And this tells us how much that there is male DNA present, and it actually gives us a number of how much could be in there. And then autosomal STR is the type of testing that's done that creates the DNA profile based on those short tandem repeats or small segments that repeat.
Okay. And now I'm going to be looking at this column here where my cursor is, but I'll go back up in your report so we can find the correct item that I'm referencing. So what I was looking at is AD1A, which is the swabbing of the barrel of the handgun, and AG1, which is swabs from the slide of the Luger pistol. Do you see that?
Yes.
So now if we go back to that line in your report, we can see that present limited and then unsuitable. So as it relates to those two swabs from the pistol, what were you able to get any DNA from those?
Those both had DNA in the samples, but were both insufficient and under that threshold, so they stopped at this point. And unsuitable just means it's unsuitable for further DNA testing.
If we look at AF1, that sample, which is the swabs from the trigger of the Luger pistol, what was the result of the DNA analysis from the swabbing from the trigger?
This was overall, the human DNA was present limited, meaning it was under the threshold, but it had male DNA. So the male DNA threshold is much smaller. It's 0.002 nanograms per microliter. And this, again, targets only the male Y chromosome. And this is typically used in sexual assaults when we have a female swabbing. So say we have a vaginal swab and there's a lot of female DNA there, and then we have a very small amount of male DNA. What we're able to do is isolate and only type the Y chromosome, and it basically wipes out the female in that profile. And this is also an STR, short tandem repeat testing, but it only targets the male chromosome. So that's typically why we have it. We just do this test for all of the samples that we have. So while it is there, it wasn't used for further testing.
So while we had swabs from the slide and the trigger of the pistol, we were unable to continue with DNA analysis. Is that correct?
Yes, typically when you have two males in the same case, Y testing is a little irrelevant.
Okay. Now, if we go to the bottom of page 3 here, we can see buccal swab standard from Kevin W. Lychwick, which was designated as item AJ1. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this is a single source male profile. Single source profile. Is that correct?
Yes.
So now this is what we're using to compare to any other DNA profile that we see throughout the testing of these items.
The buccal swab standard is used for comparisons to any of the evidence that has been developed.
Thank you for clarifying. Now, if we go forward then to item AA1, which is swabs from the side of the right boot, we can see here you report a partial single source male profile that's consistent with the profile from Kevin Lychwick. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then you have a bullet point right underneath it that talks about the probability. Can you explain to the jury, maybe in more layperson's terms, what that is actually saying?
It basically means, so the statistic says the probability of randomly selecting the observed profile from a population of unrelated individuals is not more frequent than 1 in 1 quadrillion. In simpler terms, I would have to type or develop a DNA profile for 1 quadrillion people before I would likely see this same set of numbers in a profile again.
That's a lot of work.
So being a single source profile, I'm doing a one-to-one comparison. This is one set of numbers, one contributor, and then compared to Mr. Lychwick's profile. And the numbers are consistent. So I can't say 100% that it's him because we have not typed everybody in the world, but the statistic is strong enough to say that it is many times over the population of the world that this DNA came from this person.
If we continue on then to the swabs from the bottom of the left boot, there was a low-level partial profile. So what does that mean?
This means of the locations that we looked at, some of the information is missing. That's why it's called partial. And it's low level, meaning it does not meet the qualifications for interpretation. So it was reported but not used because it is, we cannot be confident of somebody being included in that profile or not.
Okay. Now, Madam Clerk, can you turn on the screen just for the witness, please? You mentioned earlier, Ms. Taylor, that when the firearm in this case was received, it was wrapped up in towels. Is that fair to say?
The barrel of the firearm was wrapped up in towels, yes.
Thank you. And now, there was another individual present who was taking photos of the firearm as it was unraveled piece by piece. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you look at the screen in front of you? And I'm showing you a packet of photos that's marked as States Exhibits 158 through 163. And as I go through them, if you could follow along, and I'll have some more questions for you at the end. Okay. Did you see all those?
Yes.
Do you recognize those?
Yes.
Are these photos of the firearm as it came in from the police department?
Yes.
I would move exhibits 158 to 163 into evidence.
Any objection to the admission of those exhibits, Mr. Lychwick?
This is outrageous. I never saw this gun before. This is not my pistol.
That is not an objection. Therefore, those exhibits will be received.
Thank you. I would also ask to publish to the jury.
Any objection to publication of those exhibits, Mr. Lychwick?
I object to all of this.
Your objections noted. Over the objection of the defense, these pictures may be used with the jury.
All right. He objected to all of it.
In looking at exhibit 158, can you describe for me what you observed about this gun when you first opened the box?
I don't understand your question. If you could restate it.
Sure, absolutely. I'll start with, actually, this box. Is that how this firearm came to the crime lab?
Yes. Well, it came sealed.
It came sealed. Okay, thank you. Now, when you started analyzing this firearm, did you note anywhere in the case file that there was any kind of break in the seal or any evidence of tampering or otherwise concerning that would lead you to believe the integrity of this item might be compromised?
No. Upon receipt of this item in the front office, it would have been noted in the case file, and I did not, if I had noticed anything that was not normal in the packaging of this item, I would also note it.
Okay. Now, do we see, once you open this box and you see this pistol, it looks like there's a zip tie towards the grip of the firearm. Do you see that?
Yes, typically firearms are cleared to verify that there's no live ammunition in them, and then zip tied through the magazine area and basically through the top of the gun to verify that there's nothing inside of it before we analyze it.
And where my cursor is, top right of exhibit 158, is that the magazine for this pistol?
It is a magazine. I am not sure 100% myself because I'm not a firearm examiner if it is belonging to this pistol or not. It did come received with it.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you. Now, if we move on to exhibit 158. I'm sorry, 159. Is this a closer view of exhibit 158?
Yes, this is The firearm without the magazine.
Okay. Now 160?
Yes, this was after I removed the outside collection of rubber bands from the first outside towel.
And as you start removing these rubber bands, are you wearing gloves?
Yes.
And do you have intention on analyzing these rubber bands to see if there's any DNA on them?
Yes, I did.
What about the towel? Do you attempt DNA analysis on that towel?
Yes.
As you continue unraveling, if we go to Exhibit 161, do we now see more rubber bands wrapped around the interior blue towel around the barrel of this pistol?
Yes.
Do you go through the same process as you did for the exterior towel where you remove all the rubber bands and unravel this blue towel?
Yes.
Is the removal of the rubber bands depicted in 162?
That's the removal of the majority of the interior rubber band set. And then once that second towel was removed, the rubber bands that are around the end of the barrel there are separated and added to that collection.
Okay. And then Exhibit 163, what is this?
That is the pistol without all of the towels and rubber bands attached.
Okay. Now, when we look at all of these photos, did you also see a yellow sticker at the bottom of each photo?
Yes.
Does that contain that same R242973 number that you referenced earlier?
Yes.
Does it also have number or the crime lab item designation AD?
Yes.
I am going to bring to you what has previously been marked as State's Exhibit 157. If you look on the outside of Exhibit 157, do you see any yellow stickers consistent with what the crime lab would put on this item?
Yes, this one here is the sub-designation for the firearm and everything in it contained in this box.
Okay, and do you see all this red evidence tape everywhere around it?
Yes.
Obviously now this box opens, so the seal has been, or this item has been opened by someone, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's not how this was received at the crime lab?
No, it's sealed with evidence tape on all of the on all of the edges, as well as the bottom to verify there's no, because the gun is then secured with these, and it's taped over so nothing can get into any of the holes or the edges of the packaging.
Okay. Now, if I open then Exhibit 157, what do you see in there?
That is the firearm and the magazine without the towels and the rubber bands.
Okay. Now, this, as we talked about previously, has been rendered safe. The magazine is removed from the pistol, and the all of the bullets are on the outside of the box here. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as we continue going...
Safe because it's on the other side of the
and
cardboard.
Judge, I'm just going to walk this in front of the jury before I ask my next question.
This is 157, which has been previously published to the jury.
That is correct.
Yes, it's being republished for impact. I'm okay
now,
with
Ms.
this being
Taylor,
shown.
when we were talking earlier about rough and smooth surfaces and which one is a little bit easier or more likely to retain the DNA, the grip of this gun, from what you could tell, was it more of a rough surface or a smooth surface?
Aside from the tape, which produces a smoother surface, the actual grip is more rough.
Okay, and when you received this firearm, as we see in Exhibit 163, that black masking or black duct tape, was that already around the grip of this pistol?
Yes.
Now, if we go back to your report, which is Exhibit 112, but now we are at item AE1, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's the swabs from the grip of that pistol in front of you in Exhibit 157?
Yes.
Were you able to come to a conclusion as it relates to the DNA present on the swab from the grip of the pistol?
This was developed as a single source male profile, meaning there's one contributor to this profile, and at the number of repeats at each of those locations, I have one set of numbers for each of the 23 locations. And then when compared with Mr. Kevin Lychwick's profile, the numbers in his profile were the same as the ones in the evidence profile. So I can say they're consistent, and it gives the same random match probability statistic of 1 and 1 quadrillion profiles in the unrelated population.
So you would have to have profiles from a quadrillion people before you even have a chance of seeing this same set of numbers or this same profile?
Yes.
If we move on then in your report to swabbing of rubber bands around the exterior blue towel on pistol, which is crime lab number AD3A.
Find some more toys up front to play with. All these paper ASMR.
Were the rubber bands around the interior and exterior blue towel kept separate?
Yes.
Okay. Preventing cross-contamination?
When you have that many items in the possible DNA testing, the items were kept separate to designate one was from the outside towel, one was from the inside towel. But they were also separated into 2 sections each, making 4 different samples, because if you swab, say, all of them together and they all have a lot of DNA, it can prevent accurate analysis because it may pick up too many minor profiles within it.
Okay. So I am bringing to you what has previously been marked as State's Exhibits 142 and 143. Do you see on each paper bag the yellow crime lab sticker?
Yes.
And does that belong to, do these 2 bags then contain evidence from the crime lab that you analyzed?
These each contain, this is the rubber bands from the first exterior towel, and these are the rubber bands from the interior towel.
And do you see AD4 and AD3?
Yes.
Okay.
Attorney Thompson, when you're done handing the witness the exhibits, I'd ask that you continue your questioning at council table unless you need to be up here for.
You're a little too close.
Purpose.
Okay, thank you. Now, for Exhibits 142, if we look there, what's the crime lab number on that yellow sticker?
AD3.
And then Exhibit 143, what's that number?
AD4.
And when you look at both of these exhibits, are they currently sealed?
Yes.
And by
You
sealed,
just touch
do you
your
see
face with
evidence
those
tape?
gloves?
Yes.
Okay. I'll take Exhibit number 142, please. And actually, as I look on the back of this, do you see a date and initial on the back of that bag?
Yes. Once I reseal each of the items of packaging, I tape them and then I initial and date the day that I sealed them back up.
Okay. So now, knowing that this item was sealed by you, and it still is now, in opening it with a pair of scissors.
Attorney Thompson, why don't you have the witness open that?
Okay.
She can open it. You can return to council table for the questioning.
Attorney Thompson, sit down.
I will leave these with you, and I will certainly get you a pair of gloves.
She wants to be the witness. Attorney Thompson, we all have roles to play in this court.
I do.
There you go. And you can go ahead and open Exhibits 142 and 143 and let me know when you're finished.
defense, like, why can't I open any? I want to open stuff too.
Okay.
Okay. Now, looking inside of those, we see those rubber bands. Is that correct? And I'm specifically talking about item AD3.
Yes.
Now, in this DNA analysis, we see a 3-person mixture. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how then do you, or at this point, we're using that star mix, right? Because we have a mixture of DNA profiles observed here?
Yes.
Okay, so then now in looking at this chart below, can you explain to the jury what your conclusion was based on the analysis of these rubber bands around the exterior of the towel?
So the exterior rubber band swabs were separated into 2 samples. So AD is the firearm, and then AD3 are the rubber bands on the exterior of this firearm around the towel. So then there's AD3A and B. And that just is basically those rubber bands separated into 2 samples, A and B. So this is the first set of rubber bands. They're not different than the other ones. They were just separated into little piles. So in this one, it is a 3-person mixture. So 3 people are contributing to the profile. I can say at least one of these is male. And then this was separated into the percentages of those 3 contributors and then run against 2 different standards. And Mr. Polly is a very strong supporter of exclusion, meaning he's most likely not one of those 3 people. And then Mr. Lychwick's profile was compared, and it is very strong support for inclusion that this profile is made up of Mr. Lychwick and 2 other unknown individuals than if it is made up of 3 unknown people.
That person of interest and 2 unknown people, that's the better explanation for what you're seeing in this DNA analysis. Is that correct?
If you see the H1 and H2 in the chart, H1 is the proposition or the idea, is this profile best explained saying that it's made up of the person of interest and 2 other people? Or is it better explained saying this is not made up of that person, it is made up of 3 random unknown people?
And we see that as it relates to the likelihood ratio for Mr. Lychwick, we see that 1 quadrillion number again. Is that correct?
Yes.
Continuing through your report, we now get to a swabbing of rubber bands around the exterior towel and the interior towel with different sub-designations. Is that correct?
Yes.
And while you were able to obtain DNA profiles from these particular areas, were you able to either identify a single source profile or a mixture?
In this case, they were both mixture profiles.
Okay, and were you able to come to any conclusions like we just saw in the chart before?
So these AD3B and AD4B are the second set of swabs from the interior and the exterior rubber band sets. And while DNA profiles were developed, we also do a process in StarMix called a database search. And this goes through all of the samples that we submit into StarMix. And there's a database of collection of people within the lab, people that have visited the lab, and it runs all of our profiles to detect any possible contamination or close match to other profiles that of somebody within that laboratory. In this case, both of those samples were found to be a close match to a possible other profile. So they weren't used because they weren't confidently not compromised in any way. So while they were reported, they weren't used for any interpretation of inclusion or exclusion.
They were unreliable for reporting purposes. Is that fair to say?
Yes. The database search is a quality control measure that we have within the lab to verify that if a profile possibly matches other people, that it's not used, and that we note that in our reports.
If we continue moving through your report then, We're next looking at the swabbing of rubber bands around the interior blue towel on the pistol. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've already opened those items on the stand that are item AD4, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now on these swabbings of the rubber bands from the interior blue towel, you identified a 3-person mixture, is that correct?
Yes.
And now, can you explain your results in analyzing that mixture?
So this is the first set of the 2 samples taken from the interior towel rubber bands. And this was also a 3-person mixture. At least one of them was male. And this has the same proposition. Is this profile best explained? That it is made up of Mr. Lychwick's profile and 2 unknown people? Or is it better explained that it's 3 unknown people? In this case, it is a very strong support for inclusion that Mr. Lychwick's profile and 2 other people better explain the evidence than if it is made up of 3 other people.
And again, we see that 1 quadrillion number, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, when we move to the exterior blue towel, that's item AD5, is that correct?
Yes.
And then it has sub-designations for various either parts or cuttings from that towel. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
When we look at that, exterior blue towel, interior blue towel. Ms. Taylor, I provided you brown bags that are marked as exhibits 141 and 148. Do you see the exhibit sticker on there?
Yes.
Are the contents of those bags identified by a yellow sticker from your crime lab?
Yes.
Starting with exhibit number 148, which is the exterior blue towel, can you open that, please? And can you unroll that, please? Now, Ms. Taylor, you're holding up what's marked as State's Exhibit 148, which is the exterior towel. You reference on your report there's a cutting that you analyzed. Did you cut this towel?
Yes.
Where did you cut it?
Here and here.
Okay, so on the side of the towel that your right hand is holding, we can see maybe two small areas that look like holes, and those would be the cuttings that you did to this towel in order to do a DNA analysis on that blood staining?
Yes, one of the samples was confirmatory tested with the human trace test with blood and was confirmed to be positive. The other sample was done with a presumptive test for saliva and was also positive. We have no confirmatory test for saliva, but the sample was still cut for DNA analysis.
And when you analyze both the cutting of the blood staining and then the cut of a stain on the exterior towel, did you observe single source male profiles consistent with each other?
Yes.
Okay, and are they consistent then with the profile from Kevin Lychwick?
Yes, they are.
And again, we see here that 1 quadrillion number, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, item AD5C appears to be another cutting of a stain on the exterior towel, is that correct?
Yes.
In this cutting, we see that there's a 2-person mixture, is that right?
Yes.
Now, Can you explain to the jury then your conclusion on AD5C, that particular cutting from that exterior blue towel?
So a two-person mixture means there are two people contributing to that profile. Each of my locations will have 3 or 4 numbers that represent those short tandem repeat sections. And this is, again, separated by star mix into the percentages. So just estimating the percentage of contributors, say if I have an 80% contributor to 20% contributor, this is asking the question, is this profile best explained with Mr. Lychwick's DNA and one other person, or is it better explained as 2 unknown people? And in this case, it is a very strong support for inclusion that the profile is better explained with Mr. Lychwick's profile in an unknown individual.
So now, based on what you see here, at 3 different cuttings or locations on this exterior blue towel, we have Mr. Lychwick's DNA profile on.
The probability is higher in those 3 locations, yes.
Okay. Now if we move to actually before I do that, that exterior blue towel that you held up, did you divide it into quadrants as you were analyzing this piece of evidence?
Yes.
And why separate or why swab in quadrants versus just swabbing all the way across the towel back and forth?
In DNA analysis, it's possible to get too much DNA from the sample, and this creates a complex mixture. And as I stated before, complex mixtures cannot be used for interpretation. So in things such as towels and, say, pillows, things like that, where I'm looking for somebody possibly touching it, I don't know where the object came from necessarily. I don't know if the person I'm looking for is specifically on that item. So if they may have touched in like one corner but not the other corner, I separate it in quadrants to make a smaller sample for each of those swabbings to pick up basically less complex mixtures and the majority contributor for each of those locations.
And now, when you analyzed the swabbings from each of those 8 quadrants on the exterior towel, was there, and you can follow along with me in your report, a 3-person mixture observed on each swabbing from each quadrant?
Yes.
And now going backwards to quadrant 1, when we talk about your conclusion and the best explanation for what you're seeing in this mixture, do we see very strong support for inclusion as it relates to Kevin Lychwick as the person of interest?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you should have Exhibit 141 in front of you, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you open that, please?
Attorney Thompson, are you moving Exhibit 148 into evidence?
I will be, yes.
Okay, well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I should have.
I thought I did. If I did not, I would move Exhibit 148 and 141 into evidence.
Mr. Lychwick, any objection to the receipt of Exhibits 148 and 141?
I object to all of this. That's not my pistol. I don't know how my DNA got on there.
Mr. Lychwick, if you want to make a legal objection, you can do that, but editorializing or trying to testify will not be allowed. Do you have a legal objection to the admission of these exhibits? Hearing none, they are admitted.
I object.
Your objection is noted without any basis. These exhibits are entered into evidence.
Thank
you. May
you.
Continue, Attorney Thompson.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Judge. Now, Exhibit 141, is that identified by the crime lab on that yellow sticker as AD6?
Yes.
And then were there 4 sections that were swabbed on that towel that were sub-designated as AD6A through D?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you please, if you have not already, can you open Exhibit 141 and hold that up for the jury?
Attorney Thompson, hang on. Are you asking for publication to the jury?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. Lychwick, do you object to the publication of this exhibit to the jury?
I strenuously object.
All right. That is noted. The exhibit is in evidence, and it will be published to the jury. So now you may proceed.
Okay, and just so the record can reflect, Ms. Taylor held up the interior blue towel and then she turned it around, holding it up in front of the jury. Now, Ms. Taylor, on this interior towel, your report notes swabbings of sections 1 through 4. Is that different from how you analyze the exterior towel in quadrants?
So the exterior towel was swabbed in quadrants 1 through 8, basically, and each side was split into 4 quadrants. So in this towel, it was only split into 2 on each side.
Okay. Now, at the conclusion of your analysis of these 4 sections, did you identify single source male profiles on each of those sections consistent with each other?
Yes.
And are those profiles consistent with the profile of Kevin Lychwick?
Yes, they are.
And when it talks about single source, that's one contributor? It's a one-to-one comparison?
That's correct.
Okay, so in an overview then, when we talk about the exterior blue towel, the interior blue towel, the grip of this pistol, and the rubber bands, whether it's a single source profile or a mixture, we're seeing either profiles consistent with Kevin Lychwick or very strong support for inclusion of Kevin Lychwick.
That's correct.
Sorry, Judge, just one moment. I have no other questions for this witness. Thank you.
Attorney Thompson, I do not have exhibits 142 or 143 in evidence. Are you moving those in?
I am. Yes, please.
Mr. Lychwick, any objection to the admission of 142 and 143?
I strenuously object.
Okay, over the objection, those exhibits will be received. And Attorney Thompson, are you moving exhibit 111 in the statement of qualifications?
Yes. So before Ms. Taylor leaves the stand, I would move exhibits 111, 112, 158 through 163, 157, or I'm sorry, 157's already been admitted, 142, 143, 141, and 148.
I had all of those other ones already in. The only one I didn't were the only ones I didn't were the ones I mentioned. So, Mr. Lychwick, any objection to 111, the statement of qualifications coming in?
I strenuously object to this all.
Okay. Over the defense objection, 111 will be received as well.
Over the strenuous objection.
Mr. Lychwick, do you have cross-examination questions?
Yes, I do.
All right, you may begin.
Here we go.
Is it possible for an outside individual to place someone's DNA on an object?
Good
attach
question.
them to an object that they had never touched before, perhaps? Is it in your opinion that's possible?
It is possible, yes.
Boom.
At this point, I have no other questions for this witness.
That was a good question.
Thank you for answering.
That was
Any
the
redirect?
best question he could ask.
Okay, you may step down.
Okay, we have a case on our hands
Ladies and gentlemen,
again.
it's 10 minutes to noon, so we are going to take our lunch break right now. Let's plan on resuming at 1 p.m. And again, remind you, as I will try to do at every break, please do not discuss this case amongst yourselves yet. You have not heard all the evidence and you have not been instructed. So have a good lunch and we'll see you at 1 o'clock.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you. God, thank you very much.
Thank you. He stood up for the jury. It's like he just realized that his life's in the balance here, and he should probably do something about it.
Thank you. You may be seated. Is there anything we need to place on the record before we break, Attorney Thompson?
No, thank you.
Mr. Lychwick?
Yes. Again, I strongly object to these proceedings. I am unprepared to defend myself, and I am sickly. I should be in a hospital.
Mr. Lychwick,
not prepared to be here. And you dragged me here against my will. I am here under duress, and I protest.
Mr. Lychwick, your objections and your protestations are noted for the record. The court has ruled on those, and the trial will continue at 1 p.m. We'll see you then.
All right. We're back. We've got a case. That's exciting. You dragged me here. I should be in the hospital. There you go. I'm stoked. First of all, he asked a question that could not be objected to because informant was proper. He asked it of the right witness, and of all the questions he could ask, it was the best possible thing. It was casting doubt on the evidence that witness was testifying to. Is it possible for someone else to have placed my DNA there if I've never touched it? Yes. Boom. No further questions. Okay, we get that question. Every lawyer will do that. What about touch? What about touch DNA? What about, if I touch, if I slap him on the face and then pick up the weapon, is there a possible transfer of DNA? Yes, there's a possible transfer of DNA. It was a great question. Has he been medically checked? Yes, he has. He's had medical treatment. He didn't like only having one doctor. He wanted extra opinions, but he's been properly cared for. Will he remember that for his closing argument? I hope so. All right, that means we're doing a couple things. I've got some requests out that probably are not going to come back in time, but well, I know they're not back in time because everything started, but Ari says, not guilty now. No. Did the firearm have a serial number? Yes. It was 4206 or something like that. It was a 4-digit serial number, which is significant because it was an antique firearm, meaning it was a Luger, it was a Mauser Luger model 9mm, model 34 9mm, something like that. I don't remember all the details, but it was an old gun. And that old gun, it was like the 4,206th gun off the line. That's not very many. A lot of times guns nowadays, there's a lot more. The serial numbers are much higher, but 4-digit serial number. Pretty cool. Great question. All right, we're going to make an afternoon session. We're going to portal to. What time did the judge say? Who was paying attention? This is a test, mostly because I wasn't listening. This is going to be day 3, part 2. Tracy Grist sentencing is going on right now. It's in Utah, but it's just sentencing. I got the notice. I didn't join. Didn't join that one. And the case is going on up in Alaska, and they've got all sorts of stuff going on. So 1 p.m., 2 p.m. our time. Coming back at 2 p.m. All right. So we're going to be back at 1:55. Wait for it. Yeah, that poor antique firearm was not handled well. It was not treated well. Wrapping it with towels is not the best way to preserve and treat an antique like that. All right, so let's make the portal. Now we're set. All right, we're going to be back. We're going to be back after lunch to continue this as the Mr. Lychwick has sort of awakened. He's started objecting, which is good. They're not legal objections yet. He's just against this going forward right now, which is not a legal objection. He needs to come up with a legal objection, which his elbow counsel might be able to help him with. Remember, his elbow counsel was the last attorney he fired. The judge ordered that attorney to stay on the case as elbow counsel. We've heard that that attorney has earbuds in his ears and is listening to the music of his choice during trial. He does not do anything until he's consulted, does not offer anything, at which point he will consult with the defendant. We already heard that twice now in the last 24 hours or so. The defendant has had animated discussions with said elbow counsel. I can only imagine what those were like. All right, we're going to be back after lunch. You guys get some food. We will we'll see you all right back here. After we're portaling as well. We're portaling to the afternoon one. We're looking at Alaska right now. I've got a request into the court. It's starting. I know Kathy Russin from Law and Crime, who I believe is Pool Media on that one, is up there in Alaska right now. She was tweeting that she was up there. So beautiful. Beautiful. Can't wait to hear all about how it's always sunny in Alaska. Who or what is his elbow counsel? It's a real attorney who can help him with some of the tougher parts. But it's his old attorney who he fired. So tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe. We'll go live again in about 50 minutes. 50 minutes. We'll be back. 53 minutes. Have a good lunch. Bye-bye.
I was told counsel wanted to see me at sidebar.